Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's discuss colorectal cancer for a moment because it is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And in recent years, we've heard about the deaths of certain actors like Kirstie Alley and Chadwick Boseman, and it's put a new national spotlight on colorectal cancer. Believe it or not, it is the third most common cancer diagnosed in the U.S. Let's bring in someone who knows a little bit about colorectal cancer and ways to prevent it and ways to get tested. Dr. Roberto Rodriguez-Rusca. He joins us now. He is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and colorectal surgeon at the Texas Colon and Rectal Specialist Baylor. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about colorectal cancer and who is most at risk.
Everybody's at risk for developing colon cancer. Certainly, individuals that have family history of colon cancer are at more risk, and also patients that have inflammatory bowel disease.
What are the most common signs and symptoms of colorectal cancer? I know that it's one of those that you want to catch early because if you don't, it's much more dangerous and problematic.
Yes. What everybody needs to know is that most colon cancers are asymptomatic. In other words, no symptoms at all. Unfortunately, once the symptoms occur, it may be too late. So it's important to develop the routine of screening individuals younger than 45. It's a new guideline that came out through the American Society of Colorectal Surgeons, the American Cancer Society. Many societies are supporting screening patients when they're asymptomatic. But the symptoms, the most common symptoms are changing bowel habits, blood in the stool, abdominal pain, weight loss, anemia.
So I know that the years and the ages of people who get screened for colorectal cancer, that has come down in recent years. Can you tell me why it's come down and the screening? Can you just go to any doctor, or does it have to be specifically certain kinds of doctors? What's the easiest way for someone that's watching right now to get screened?
So the age originally was 50 years, but because of the incidence of colon cancer has increased in younger individuals, societies have lowered the age of screening, which is 45. The way to get screened, there's many ways of screening. Stool tests that you can do at home, stool colonoscopies that can be also done for screening and imaging studies. There's many different ways. Through your primary care physician, they can order a stool test for screening. You certainly would need to see a physician to have a colonoscopy performed, which is the gold standard for screening colon cancer.
There are a lot of people that when they hear colonoscopy, they immediately they tense up and they're very intimidated by that whole process once it's explained to them. What advice would you give someone who's reluctant to get screened for colon cancer?
Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Just get screened. If you reach the age of screening, just go ahead and follow through with any mode of testing. I know colonoscopy has the stigma of being uncomfortable, but it's really not that uncomfortable. Probably the most challenging part is just the preparation, where you need to get cleaned out before and stay on clear liquid diet to achieve cleansing of your colon in addition to a laxative. But is done under sedation for colonoscopies in most instances. And if you are still reluctant to proceed with that, at least take the advantage of stool tests, home kits, that can be done, and your primary care physician can order that, or any physician can take care of that.
Doctor, is there anything else you want to mention? We have thousands of people that watch us each and every morning here. Anything else you want to say to them? I know it is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. What else would you like to say?
Well, I think the most important thing about colon cancer is that it's curable and it's preventable. And that's the most important thing. Prevention is the key to defeat this disease.
Okay, Dr. Roberto Rodriguez Rusca, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much for your insight and your analysis on this Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me this morning.
All right, so let's take a live look right now from our High Five camera in Midtown Memphis. Boy, it is nice, isn't it? Wow, look at that. That is gorgeous. Just lots of sunshine that we're dealing with. Check out this shot from our downtown High Five cameras. A barge goes under the I-40 bridge there. Just a gorgeous day. We're going to be bathed in sunshine throughout much of the day. In fact, temperatures are going to be near 70 degrees. Yes, it's technically winter, but it's certainly not going to feel like it. Meteorologist Brittany Bryan has that and our chances for showers and thunderstorms later this week.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon today, or noon Wednesday, I mean, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but then rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County going into Ashland and Corinth, but kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis into Fayette County into Olive Branch, also in eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid 60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday, and then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
Okay, an interesting one there. A 7-day forecast. Lots of stuff being forecasted for Memphis and the Mid-South. That's kind of how it is in the middle of March. You got a little bit of everything. Showers, cold temperatures, warm temperatures as well. So let's talk about what's coming up in this hour here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. One step closer to building a new soccer stadium in the Bluff City. We're talking about 901 FC, and we have our Parker King giving us the latest information on that. Also, a warning today for any parent considering in-home daycares. One couple is sharing their story so you know exactly what to ask. And which is the healthiest cooking oil? You know, you're ready to cook a nice recipe. What should you cook with? Should it be avocado? Should it be olive oil? Should it be something else perhaps? Well, later this half hour, we're going to be talking with a doctor this morning about some easy ingredient swaps for healthier cooking. We're all trying to get healthier this morning, and it's certainly something that we're watching here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. But I want to go to a story that we're following right now. This is one of the top stories on our website right here at actionnews5.com. It is a juvenile that's been injured after a shooting in Frazier. And if you go to actionnews5.com, this is the top story here. Memphis police investigating a shooting that took place in Frazier this morning. They found a juvenile with a gunshot wound. It was Carrollton Avenue near Thomas Street. He was taken to Regional 1 a little bit before 5 o'clock in critical condition. We have a crew working to gain more information on that. We'll keep you posted as we get more information here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Also want to update you to Arlington now because this is new out of that community. Mixed feelings about a proposed development, which some include apartments, some businesses as well. A number of people packed the Alderman meeting to voice concerns about a pair of developments, Hawthorne Residential and Hawthorne Commercial. The mixed-use developments would be off Summer Road, north of I-40 between Highway 385 and Airline Road. The apartment complex would have about 600 units, and people say they're concerned about the way Arlington is growing.
That's what we set for all these other mixed-use properties around town. There's a lot. What happens to the apartments when they sell? You know, they might be fine for the first 10 years. What happens when they sell? Then can they take federal money? And then will it go downhill like other apartments like in Lakeland have done?
In the end, the board voted to approve both developments. All right, later today, the Memphis City Council will vote for a third and final time on 6 different ordinances that would change Memphis police policies. Let's take a look here. One of them would require an annual audit of the Memphis Police Department's training academy, change city traffic code to prevent traffic stops for minor offenses, require police to only use marked vehicles for traffic stop. They would also require MPD to report cases and recommendations made by CLERB on police complaints, require an independent investigation on use of force complaints, and require police to routinely report data on traffic stop, arrests, and complaints. In an effort to reduce the time it takes to turn around results for sexual assault kits, rape kits, for example, hundreds of untested kits will soon be sent out of state in Tennessee. Action News 5's Bria Bolden has a look at where those kits are going and an update on a bill that would make the turnaround for the TBI quicker.
Hundreds of sexual assault kits are on their way to the Sunshine State, 250 of them from the TBI lab in Jackson, where Shelby County sends its kits. This outsourcing project helps us take an immediate step as we continue to discuss longer-term fixes, said TBI Director David Roush. $1.5 million in federal grant money will pay for the kits to go to DNA Labs International in Deerfield Beach, Florida. The TBI hopes to send 1,000 more kits before the end of the year, with a price tag of more than $2,000 per kit. State Senator London Lamar from Memphis, whose bill to reduce the turnaround time to test kits to 30 days, supports the outsourcing.
So I think it's the right decision to outsource to get these outdated tests done and ensure that we can expedite the process on finding out who's responsible for many of these crimes that have been reported, which the DNA is in these tests, and we can help bring justice to families who have come forward.
The move comes after intense scrutiny aimed at the TBI after the murder of Memphis mother Eliza Fletcher. Days after her body was found, her accused killer, Cleotha Henderson, was indicted for the 2021 rape of another Memphis woman, Alicia Franklin. Franklin's rape kit went untested for nearly a year. Senator Lamar says she supports the TBI's latest fix, but only as a short-term solution, State lawmakers want something more permanent.
I appreciate TBI doing this in order to get these testing done. But let's not make this a habit. Let's go ahead and put in policies right now so that we won't have to have backlogs as we've seen.
Okay, so the TBI also hopes for the additional $4.5 million Governor Lee has proposed for staffing, but lawmakers still have to approve those funds. We will keep you posted on that issue. All right, so let's talk about a hearing on whether or not to dismiss Alicia Franklin's lawsuit against the city of Memphis. It's set for tomorrow. She claims in her lawsuit that if Memphis police had properly investigated her alleged rape, Memphis mother of two, beloved teacher Eliza Fletcher, would still be alive. Back in December, the city of Memphis admitted that police did not fingerprint the location where Franklin says she was raped and admitted they did not interrogate Cleotha Henderson until 3 days before Eliza Fletcher's body was identified. This morning, we're following a deadly shooting. 2 people have been killed, 2 more hurt after a shooting at the Valley Forge Apartments in Whitehaven. The gunmen are still on the run this morning. We've learned the shooting stemmed from a domestic situation. MPD did say they do not believe the suspect is a threat to anyone else, but certainly neighbors are concerned.
If you that mad, you feel like you're going to shoot somebody, drive off, walk off, run off, fly off. I don't care. I just wish Memphis would get it together. I just wish Memphis would get it together. Like, seriously, somebody got to have some sense.
At last check, Memphis police say the 2 victims rushed to Regional 1 remain in critical condition. If you have any information, please call Crime Stoppers or text Crime Stoppers. You can remain anonymous. The number is 901-528-CASH. All right, switching gears right now, Ron Terry, chairman and CEO of First Tennessee Bank from 1973 to the early 90s, has died at the age of 92. He created a statewide banking network at First Tennessee known as First Horizon. Then in 1981, he played a major role in financing the revival of the Peabody, cornerstone of downtown redevelopment. Later that same year, he helped inspire then Governor Lamar Alexander to create the Memphis Jobs Conference that helped revive Beale Street, the Orpheum, and attract a convention center hotel downtown. The Tennessee House of Representatives passed a bill that some critics say is intended to restrict gay marriage. House Bill 878 would give marriage officiants the right to deny marriage to a couple for any reason. It's a right Memphis State Senator Ramesh Akbari says officiants already have.
The original text in the legislation, it was very clear that they were trying to target people who did not want to participate or solemnize LGBTQ marriages. I mean, I think that was just pretty clear.
She says bills targeting the LGBTQ plus community does not represent Memphis values. Piece of legislation moving forward that would limit what you can view on college campuses in Tennessee. It would prohibit students, faculty, and staff from accessing social media platforms using the school's internet network if the platform is owned or operated by a company based in China, like TikTok. Lawmakers say people would be able to use their own data to view those apps, but would not be able to access them on school Wi-Fi. Basketball world has been shaken up when video of Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant was holding a gun at a club in Denver. It was posted to Ja's Instagram. It was an Instagram Live. The Grizzlies announced that Ja is stepping away from the team for at least 2 games, so he won't play against the Lakers tonight. He did not play against the Clippers on Sunday. Police in Colorado are also investigating to see if Ja broke any laws by taking a gun into the club. The Grizzlies say they're taking things very seriously, and it seems like Ja is as well. He released a statement which states he takes full responsibility for his actions, apologized to the team, his family, coaches, fans, and the city of Memphis. Head coach Taylor Jenkins says there isn't a timetable on when he will return. One step closer to building a new soccer stadium in the Bluff City. We're talking about 901 FC and architects were asked to submit proposals for that new stadium. Parker King reports.
Craig Unger with 901 FC recently returned from his second visit to Nashville during this General Assembly, pushing for the roughly $50 million to fund a stadium project for Memphis's pro soccer team. The funding currently hasn't been secured yet.
I think that everyone left with a lot of optimism.
Right now, Unger and the city of Memphis need to select an architect. The proposal deadline is passed, and the timeline is to select one in the next 2 weeks.
And we will design every aspect of the stadium, floor by floor, section by section. The detail will become very much more than just a nice picture.
We looked at the renderings that the city had put forward, and we said, where might stadiums like that fit?
A new soccer stadium would stand on the site of the demolished vacant Mid-South Coliseum. Marvin Stockwell's group, the Coliseum Coalition, presented a map of 5 different spots in and around Liberty Park that could be potential stadium sites, 6 if you count Liberty Stadium.
What sense does it make to build at a site where there is at least $10 million of additional cost because of demolition than building somewhere that has open land in the city?
The city has told us in the past that demolition would cost roughly $7 to $9 million. We asked if the city was dead set on the Coliseum site, and the city said, quote, "We are committed to having 901 FC at Liberty Park, and we're moving full speed ahead with this project. We feel optimistic about making this transformative development a reality."
Imagine if we had the same energy from the city being put towards how do we figure out the Coliseum.
Purely from a soccer fan perspective, they need a place to call their own. They need their own home, just like.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and I want to tell you about a new thought-provoking campaign that is highlighting the unique stories of people with multiple myeloma, a currently incurable type of blood cancer with over 34,000 new cases estimated to be diagnosed in the United States in 2023. Told True is a campaign that features people with multiple myeloma along with artists who are bringing their stories to life through spoken and visual art, helping those feeling the impact. They're feeling heard. They are also feeling connected and empowered against this disease. And so joining me now to talk more about all of this is Oya, an advocate for health equity in the Black community. He was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2017. He joins us now along with spoken word artist Jay to talk about taking part in Told True and how the multiple myeloma community can participate, come together, feel heard. And I'm so glad to have both of you joining us this morning. How are you doing?
We're doing good.
Fantastic. It's great to be here.
And I think it's great that we're opening the dialogue and talking about this. So let's just start by talking about what myeloma is and how you were both diagnosed, or how you were diagnosed. I'm sorry, Oya.
No worries. Well, multiple myeloma is a cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow that is currently incurable. And as you stated earlier, I was diagnosed in 2017, the day after Christmas. What a Christmas present. But prior to that, I was very sick for a few years, and I was just trying to figure out what was going on with me. I went to all kinds of doctors and I've seen every ologist you could think of, and nobody could come up with what was really wrong with me. So I wound up being in a situation where I went to my insurance company and they sent their folks out to do some testing. And that's when they discovered the abnormal protein in my system. And that led to my diagnosis.
Wow, what a story. And like you said, the day after Christmas, I can't even imagine emotionally what that was like. And then going through that whole process of not knowing what's going on and finally figuring it out. How has it been for you? And I do want to hear more about the Told True campaign, because I think this is probably something that's so helpful for people that are dealing with this. So let's just talk about, just the emotions that you've gone through, how you've got involved, and why you got involved with this campaign.
Sure. Through the process in this journey, it has been challenging, emotionally, physically, and mentally, spiritually. I pressed on through, going through support groups and then becoming heavily involved in being an advocate for this disease. And I got involved with the Multiple Myeloma Told True campaign because it just felt right. It felt right for a multitude of different reasons, but more importantly, the focus that they have pairing us up with artists like Jay to tell our story and hopefully get folks inspired. But it's all about keeping on and having hope, and that's what's helped me through this journey. A lot of laughing and a lot of smiling.
And Jay, I want to talk with you now because obviously Oya's story inspired you, and you created a spoken word poem about his journey. So let's just talk about, what this was like for you to be involved.
Yes, no, Oya's story is incredibly inspirational, and his voice is powerful all on its own. So really, when we met, I was inspired by the way that he used such poetic and beautiful language, to describe to me what he was going through. And when we met, he talked to me about just how he started living, moment to moment and appreciating the small moments in his life. And so that's ultimately what became kind of the refrain of the poem that I ended up writing, is just talking about those moments, the moments that he got to spend time with his children, work on his music and the things that he likes. And he also spoke to me about, his struggles, feeling seen and heard and understood, and getting his diagnosis, as a Black man. And that really resonated with me as something very important to talk about, to spread awareness of. And so it was a very seamless partnership, I would say. And I think we produced a great story working with this partnership, with Pfizer and everything.
Absolutely. And I guess I'm interested, Jay, how did you hear about this campaign, and what have you learned about being a part of it?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this campaign. It was, brought to my attention, and I was immediately excited to be part of something like this, because what I learned, is that this disease does disproportionately affect Black people and other minority groups. We are more likely to have worse, outcomes with this disease. And so that was something that was new to me and incredibly sad to hear, which is what made me excited to do such a project to raise awareness about this issue.
Oh yeah, I want to bring you back in, because obviously we're looking at some video now. You can see of Jay doing that spoken poem. What was it like for you to hear it coming from her when she put it together and took the stage, performed it? What was that like for you?
Wow. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it now. It was a powerful, powerful moment for me. If you understand the campaign, I had no idea who she was or what the poetry was going to be, or what the art was going to be. And when I walked in and seen her on stage, it's funny, I was looking for something like a veil to be pulled off, but she was just standing there. And then once I sat down and she started speaking, I realized she was the art and the words coming out of her mouth. And it was perfect because I'm into music and I'm really big on that. And so it was just a perfect pairing. And I was just moved beyond words. I can't even explain it, but very heartfelt, very personal. It was everything to me, that moment.
It had to have been overwhelming, being able to hear that. And I mean, the power that comes from those spoken word poems, I love that. And I love that this is a campaign that's going on right now, because it helps people, too, to know that they're not alone and that sort of thing. So, Oya, what can you tell people that are maybe impacted by multiple myeloma, this campaign, the Told True, how it's really just helped you, and for you to be able to feel heard and that your story is being told? Just talk about your experience, what advice you'd give for others out there.
Oh, sure. Well, for starters, it's been a great partnership with Pfizer. The Told True campaign has been a great outlet for me and what I'm trying to do as far as being an advocate for this disease. You can go to mmtoldtrue.com to get some inspiration and some hope. That's what I'm hoping to convey, or that message that gets conveyed, is that this is about hope. Because if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. And it was just a really great experience. And I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself, that really made a difference dealing with this disease.
Well, Oya, I appreciate you sharing your story. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about you being a part of this campaign. Wish you both the best, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amanda. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, nutrition and nutrition studies are always evolving. It's really unsure these days what's healthy and what's not. It feels like it changes all the time and it's constantly evolving. 7 out of 10 people believe that changing nutrition info makes it hard to know exactly what to believe. Even when families are trying to make healthier meals, they're oftentimes very confused about what to eat. So let's bring in our next guest here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk, Dr. Sylvia Melendez-Klinger. She is someone that is knows all about nutrition and is with the American Heart Association's volunteer expert. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning. Very well. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. So let's talk first off, when we're cooking something, we got this brand new recipe. We're super excited. We want to eat as healthy as possible. What is the cooking oil that we should use?
Yes, great question. You know, all these oils have a purpose in the cooking. And we need to know, first of all, that, you know, vegetable oil, canola oil, they're great for baking, roasting, frying at high temperatures, okay? So these are great for cooking and baking and roasting. The other oils, olive oil, avocado oil, sesame oil, they're delicate oils. So they're only to be used for marinating, dressings, and tiny little bit of maybe like sauteing a little bit. But they're delicate, so they can burn easily. Now, these are all vegetable oils, okay? So they're plant-based, they're unsaturated fat, so they're healthy for the heart. The oils that you need to be really careful, animal fats, they have a lot of saturated fats. Coconut oil, even though it's plant-based, it has saturated fats. So that needs to be used very, very sporadic, you know, once in a blue moon only, okay? Those saturated fats have to be limited. And these other ones, you know, they all have you want more flavor, you use olive oil, avocado oil. If you want to cook with the oil, bake, roast, grill, then use vegetable oil or canola oil. I mean, you can always use it for marinating too, but of course, you know, if you want to add some flavor, these are the ones.
Interesting. Okay. So let me ask you this about the other ingredients that we can swap right now for something that perhaps is in our house, but how do we make it healthier? Let's talk about that.
Oh, I love to talk about that because people think when they're seasoning food, just salt. You know, they always think of salt. But here, you know, we have many ways to season. For example, fruits and vegetables are great to season food. You can add citrus juices. You can add, you know, like peppers, you know, things that really add a lot of flavor and color as well, and nutrition. Then you can go to the spices. There's so many. One of my favorites, smoked paprika. Oh, it's such a delicious flavor to, like, if you want like a meaty flavor without the meat, that's your spice to go to. But chili peppers, you have garlic powder, onion powder, you know, even like, you know, fresh herbs. They're great also to add a lot of flavor as well. But again, these combination of foods, you know, when you flavor with herbs and more garlic, more onions, fresh herbs, you're adding flavor, you're adding color, and also you can even boost the nutritional value of that meal.
What are your tips for making healthy food affordable? We hear so many times, you know, great, I'd love to eat healthier. I just can't afford to eat healthier. So what are some good suggestions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that nutrition doesn't have to be expensive. Planning is the key because you need to see like, okay, what am I going to make this week? What ingredients I need to buy? So you're not double buying things. You can use foods that are in season. You know, right now the spring is coming. We have lots of cauliflower. We have greens. We have lots of fruits that are coming up. So then take advantage of that. Okay. And at the same time, you know, use leftovers. Be very effective at using something that was left over to put it into another meal. I have here rice and beans. Using canned beans, canned products, frozen products could be inexpensive as well. In canned beans, if you rinse them, you can take 40% of the sodium. And it's a great way to cut time and at the same time, you know, add fiber and protein and many other vitamins to a dish. And we always say, you know, half a cup of beans every day, and, you know, really will help you to live longer. So, you know, you never know. You know, these foods really will help you to stay healthy and to really, more than anything, you know, take care of your heart.
This sounds all great, and it looks good, Sylvia. Anything else that people can go, our viewers can go for more information about all what we talked about and more?
Absolutely. You know, this month of nutrition, where the American Heart Association is having a program called Together at the Table. And you can find recipes that are heart healthy. You can find also many resources in English and even Spanish, going to heart.org/Nutrición y tu familia, which is nutrition and your family. So heart.org/Nutrición y tu familia. That website is great in English and Spanish to go find all these resources and more recipes that are heart healthy.
Okay, Dr. Sylvia Melendez-Klinger, we appreciate your time this morning and all the tips on a healthier meal and meal planning. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon today, or noon Wednesday, I mean, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but the rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County going into Ashland and Corinth, but kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis into Fayette County into Olive Branch, also in eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with an inch to an inch and a half. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, an inch to an inch and a half of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid 60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday, and then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
All right, I want to show you this. This is fresh video into the digital desk. Look at that truck that's on the tow truck back there. You can see the front end with severe damage there because it hit this train that you see here. This happened about 7 o'clock or so, just a few minutes before. This is on Channel Avenue and Port. This is in the President's Island, I should say. And so we're still working to get some more information on what exactly happened here. But again, this happened where about 7 o'clock or so, maybe a little bit before, where a pickup truck was hit by a train earlier this morning. We'll continue to follow it and update you when we get more information. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's talk about education in the state of Tennessee. And from what we understand, Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton floated the idea of the state rejecting federal funding for K-8 education. He wants to free up Tennessee schools from various federal rules and restrictions that go along with accepting these dollars. Right now, the state of Tennessee gets about $1.8 billion annually from the federal government for K-12 education. And the Tennessee House Speaker says the state has had enough revenue to cover any difference, but does a shift like that certainly would mark a major change in how Tennessee funds education. Let's talk more about this with Marta Aldrich. She is a reporter with Chalkbeat Tennessee, State House reporter there. Marta, glad to have you back on the digital desk. How are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Good. So $1.8 billion, that's a lot of money for Tennessee to forego. Tell us, is this actually feasible, and what would it mean?
So, well, first of all, I want to say Speaker Sexton, people have asked me if this is a serious proposal, and Speaker Sexton says he is serious. In fact, his words to me were, I absolutely think we should do it. But he added that he wants to start a conversation about the idea, and that it doesn't mean that Tennessee should make this kind of massive shift this year. And spokespeople for Governor Lee and for Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have also indicated that their offices are open to exploring the possibility. And several top education leaders in the House have expressed outright enthusiasm for this idea. They say it would give Tennessee more autonomy when it comes to educating our students. But there are other lawmakers who say they have a lot of questions still.
So I've heard from Republicans in Tennessee and other states that have talked about this move, this idea, saying that CRT, woke ideology, they want to stay away from that, and that's what they say is one of the main reasons why they want to reject funding, because otherwise there will be a lot of, I guess, strings attached to that money. My understanding is no states really rejected federal funding. Is this feasible? Could Tennessee do it? And if so, how?
So yes, Tennessee could reject the federal funding. The reason that no state has ever done this before is that states typically need the money. Federal funding makes up about 1/10 of their K-12 education budget. And leaders in other typically Republican-leaning states have talked about this idea before. In Oklahoma right now, lawmakers are currently considering legislation to phase out federal ed funding over 10 years. And there are also small school systems across the state that have passed on federal money. That's usually because of the cost of compliance for those school systems. I will say, how are we going to do this? Now, if it happens, Speaker Sexton has made this funding pivot sound pretty simple. You know, just substitute the state funding for federal education funding. But it really would not be that simple. The way that the federal funding works is actually pretty complex. Some districts and schools are more dependent than others on that money, and the lion's share goes to schools that serve disadvantaged students. And there are other federally funded programs and grants that target certain needs that range from rural education and English language learners to technology and charter schools. And all of these matters go through the U.S. Department of Education. But there's also a variety of federal school grants that go through the U.S. Department of Agriculture to provide free meals to qualifying students. And there's a related web of state laws and policies that have been created in response to most of these federal grants. That web likely would have to be unwound if Tennessee decided to go it alone.
I gotcha. And so, Speaker Sexton, he granted you an interview. You talked to him about these different things. Did he mention why they would want to do that? Is it because of various ideological differences with this administration, with the federal government here in Tennessee? I mean, did he talk specifics with you about why they would do that? Is it because of ideology?
Well, he didn't say that. He says that testing is the main problem. States that take federal money must give annual tests in reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school. They're also required to give a science test one time each in elementary, middle, and high school. So each state has to give 17 tests annually, although no individual student takes more than 3 of those tests in a given year. Speaker Sexton says Tennessee overtests and that it doesn't give the right test. He says Tennessee should scrap or could scrap the TCAP tests, which our state developed through its own testing companies, and then create a better test with the help of its educators. But if Tennessee wants to do that, it probably could already do it in conversation with the U.S. Ed Department. States already have more flexibility than ever to develop their testing, evaluation, and accountability systems under a 2015 federal law that was crafted with the leadership of Tennessee's former senator and governor, Lamar Alexander. Beyond the issue of testing, I don't think many people would dispute that accepting federal funding comes with a lot of red tape. There's mounds of paperwork. There's numerous audits of how the money is spent. All of that is part of a huge bureaucratic infrastructure that comes with administering billions of dollars of federal funding. Sexton has not given us the list of his other beefs, although we've asked him numerous times for that list. But some do suspect that his bigger objections are related to current culture war issues about curriculum and whether transgender students should be allowed to use school bathrooms or play sports consistent with their gender identity, which may not correspond with the sex that is listed on their birth certificates.
So all these changes, Marta, a lot of people are wondering, okay, what are the changes if they do happen? What would they mean for schools, and specifically, what would they mean for kids?
Yeah. So if Tennessee opts to do this, it possibly could disrupt finances for schools, but it really depends on how it's done. Through a program called Title I, the U.S. government distributes hundreds of millions of federal dollars to Tennessee schools that serve large concentrations of students from low-income homes to help them improve achievement. Now, if Tennessee replaced Title I funding with state money, would it still use the federal formula for distributing that money? Sexton has not said. This is particularly important for Memphis Shelby County schools because all but 8 of the school system's 155 district-run schools have Title I designations. And if you add up all the various pots of federal education money due to MSCS, the district is projecting to get more than $892 million in federal dollars next school year. As for what it could mean for kids, that's really the most important question, right? And the answer is there's just a lot of uncertainty. Speaker Sexton has said his intention is for the state to fund all of the programs currently covered by the federal government, but he's not given details about what that would look like, for instance, for students with disabilities that are currently protected by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That federal statute says schools that accept federal funds must identify students with disabilities and give them a free and appropriate public education that's tailored to their needs. Now, Sexton says the state can come up with a similar program that he believes could be better, but the Tennessee Disability Coalition says there's no assurance that a Tennessee version would give families the same or better protections than under the current federal laws that are designed to protect students with disabilities.
Are they going to discuss this during this legislative session? I mean, it sounds like Sexton floated the idea, and now it's time for state lawmakers to discuss it. So there's not going to be the details that we know that we're asking about right now. Is this something that could eventually be resolved this legislative session, or might it be something that's afterwards?
I would seriously doubt it. He has not filed an amendment to an existing caption bill that would lay out his plan. And really until people see the details, there can be no serious discussions. This is a 2-year legislative session. We're at the very beginning of the 2-year session. So he could file a bill to be discussed in next year's legislative session, and it would still count because it's part of this current General Assembly. So I would not anticipate anything immediately, but you never know.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Marta Aldridge, Chalkbeat reporter for the Tennessee State House. We appreciate you writing a very detailed article about this very issue. By the way, why don't you tell our viewers where they can read this article?
Just Google Chalkbeat Tennessee, and you can find our website and read our ongoing coverage that has to do with both state policy and Memphis-Shelby County schools.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk, and we're going to talk about a very serious topic that some might call an epidemic here in the United States, and that's obesity. And of course, it can lead to several different types of health risks. And so joining me now to help talk more about this is Dr. Lee Daigle, bariatric physician with Methodist Medical Group Weight Management and Wellness Center. Dr. Daigle, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Glad to have you on. Doing well, except for the rain that we're dealing with today. But all in all, not too bad. Of course, we were talking about obesity. It just continues to be an epidemic here in the U.S. It's a problem that a lot of people struggle with. In fact, I was looking at some numbers, and nearly 40% of our population is considered obese, which I think is pretty alarming, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very much so. And that number is expected to increase to about 50% by 2030, which is in 7 years, which is even more alarming.
Wow. What could you say? I mean, obviously it's a problem, and you saying that this is going to grow even more. It's expected to grow even more. What is it that you feel is contributing to that here in the U.S. specifically?
It's multifactorial. It's not very simple. Of course, diet and lifestyle activity people know about, those do contribute. But it also involves genetics, medical conditions, mental health, our sleep patterns. There are a lot of things that have changed over the last several decades that have contributed to this. Our food system, access to different types of food and healthy food, they tend to be more expensive. And so there are a lot of things that contribute to where we are numbers-wise and where we are headed.
And obviously that has a lot of health impacts. Can we talk about some of the things that, when you are obese, there are several things that can come of that. I know my dad, he was borderline diabetic, didn't heed the warning of trying to lose some weight, and of course he ended up with diabetes, but there are several other health factors that can come into play when you're dealing with something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, there are metabolic consequences as example is diabetes. There are over 200 medical conditions that are either caused by or worsened by obesity, which is staggering. Several different types of cancers, including female cancers like breast cancer. Of course, heart disease we know about, sleep apnea, lung conditions. Obesity, the disease of obesity affects every organ system that you can think of, musculoskeletal, kidney, everything.
And one thing that I think is interesting, there's a lot of shows out there like 1,000 Pound Friends and things like that, where these individuals, they realize they have these health problems. They are like, this is going to kill me if I don't do something. And they, of course, they go get that surgery, and you immediately see the impact, not only in their health, but their overall self-worth and the way that they feel about themselves. For maybe those people that struggle to shed that weight, where they're just saying, I feel like I'm doing what I can. Do you have any kind of tips or strategies or things that maybe could help them out?
Yeah, so obviously increasing your activity helps, and that can be in small steps. It doesn't have to be huge chunks of time if you're limited in time. It doesn't have to be super strenuous if you have physical limitations to your activity. It can be simple, using the stairs, parking farther away when you go to the store, walking around the store several times while you're shopping. So it can be really simple increases in activity. Limiting processed foods also helps, increasing your fruits and vegetables, eating them as naturally as you can get them. Those are all things that can help and can improve your health and your weight. Discussing your weight with your physician also can be helpful. There are some medications that cause weight gain and contribute to weight gain, and so that can be adjusting those medications and switching to other ones can be helpful.
And, I know you were talking about increasing your activity. It seems like in the world today, especially after the pandemic, people don't necessarily have to leave their home anymore. A lot of people work from home now. A lot of people can even get their groceries delivered to their home. Do you think that's something else that maybe is contributing to this? And even what you said, the idea that maybe the percentage of people that are obese in the United States is going to go up even more, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've seen a big rise in obesity numbers since COVID. Because of everything that you mentioned. Everything can be ordered online, delivered to your house. People are working from home. And some of the people working from home may not go back into work. A lot of companies are realizing that they can be just as effective with remote access to their employees. So it absolutely contributes. And there are lots of things you can also get delivered to your house, like resistance bands for when you have breaks at work, or ellipticals that sit under your desk, or standing desks where you can stand up and take breaks throughout the day. So there are other things you can build in that can help you in the right direction.
And like you said, it can just be some easy steps and easy things that you can incorporate in your day-to-day. And it's not necessarily like, a lot of people I think go in and they're like, I have to change my entire life, and I'm going to restrict, and I'm only going to eat these foods, and then they feel like it's just too much to manage. But like you said, there could just be simple things that people just start with one thing. I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk around the block once a day, and then eventually building in more things that maybe you want to implement. Is that some advice that you think do you think that's what people struggle with a lot of times when it comes to thinking about losing weight, is they just get overwhelmed by it all?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people think that they have to overhaul everything that they've been doing for their entire life in a month span. The best thing to do would be to make small, healthy changes that you can maintain. So really, lifestyle changes are more important than diet, and something that's more profound that won't be able to be maintained.
And with the patients that you see, do you feel like sometimes it's not, a lot of times there's a lot of mental aspects that go with weight management and lifestyle changes. Is that a big part of it too, would you say?
Yeah, it is. When you're physically unable to do the things that bring you joy that you want to do, that impacts your mental health, it impacts your mood, it impacts your interpersonal relationships. And so as the weight comes down, all of those things get better, and you feel like you can better live your life and have a better quality of life.
For sure. Well, Dr. Daigle, this has been insightful. I've enjoyed talking to you. Is there anything that you feel like we missed that you want to make sure that we hit on for our viewers out there?
I don't think so. We're here to help. So if you have made all these changes and are not getting the results that you would like, we're here for you at the Methodist Weight Management Clinic. We have 2 bariatric surgeons if you want to go surgical. You have myself for the medical weight loss, and we have 2 dietitians who are fantastic. We have lots of resources that can help.
And real quick, when do people know that they should go and maybe seek help from a physician, especially when it comes to surgery?
That's variable. It depends on the patient. Some people, most people that we see have struggled with weight off and on for their lives. Some just decades, but everybody's different. Everybody has their own threshold. And when you feel like you've done everything that you can do and you're needing help, and sometimes even before that, if you don't want to get to the point where you feel like you've done everything and you need help early, that's okay too. It's different for everybody.
All right, bariatric physician Dr. Lee Daigle, we appreciate your time this morning and you getting this information out to our viewers. You have a good one, all right?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You too.
Okay, it is Tuesday morning. It is 9 o'clock, and when we approach 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, we talk to our friend Talisa Franklin at WAVN The Trend. Talisa, what's going on today? How are you?
I am wonderful. It is a terrific Tuesday. I am so grateful to be in the city of Memphis on a Tuesday. You know, there's no better place that I would rather be in the world than in Memphis. I tell you, you know, so many people have so many negative things to say, but I'm one of these people. I believe in Memphis. I believe in our city. And so I'm grateful. And we got so many great things that's happening in our city that make you want to believe even the more, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm certainly a glass half full kind of guy as well, Talisa. And boy, you know, one of the things it'll hit you right when you hit the door is the amazing sunshine and the amazing weather we are having right now. It's technically still winter, believe it or not.
It feels so good. I tell you, last night I went for my night walk and I was like, oh my God, it just feels amazing. And then it's Women's Month. Hello, women's. It's our month. And so women, it is imperative that we enjoy ourselves, enjoy this beautiful weather, whether you're inside or outside. It's Women's Month. Okay, let's do something for us.
Yes, exactly. And I know, Talisa, you got a lot of stuff happening it is Women's Month, International Women's Month. Tell us what's going on in your world.
Well, you know, this Saturday, one of my dear friends and sisters, Sheila Floyd, Pastor Sheila Floyd, they are having at their church a Women in Business Expo, right? This Saturday, what makes me love this event, if anybody knows the Floyds, Ambassador Ricky D. Floyd and Pastor Sheila Floyd, they love people, but this event is hosted by Pastor Sheila Floyd. She is the pastor of that church along with her husband. Women in business. So women, if you are a woman that you're in business, listen, be a part of this expo. And then listen, if you're not in business, come out to the expo and support so many women that have committed their life to be in business, and let's support them. You know, women, we support women. And so I am encouraging each and every woman to drop by this Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Pursuit of God Church Transformation Center, 3759 North Watkins in Memphis, and be a part and celebrate these women and spend, I don't care if you have $5 or $500 to impact another woman. Go and spend that and encourage another woman while they're in business. Because I can tell you, from a business owner myself, business sometimes can be challenging, but it's nothing like having people say, I support you. And not only say it, but use their dollars and use their money to support. So I'm encouraging every woman, if you're not a part of the event, listen, come out and just support, and let's be one big happy ladies family. So Women in Business Expo 2023, be there this Saturday. And then what's coming up, many people are threatening, don't know what's going on with their home buyers. Rashida does an amazing job with this 2023 Black Developers Housing Summit, shifting the paradigm through equity and access. Listen, on this following March 9th through the 11th, this weekend, if you're anywhere in the area, go to the Black Housing Summit, get the information. They have put together a Power Pack weekend to help people navigate through this housing market, right? It is a crazy market, but you can navigate through it. So this weekend, we have two powerful things that you can support, two powerful women that is doing an absolutely an amazing job. Rashida is doing the thing, and I'm so proud of her. Rashida Jones and Pastor Ricky D. Floyd, wife Sheila Floyd, is doing two women event this weekend. I encourage every woman to support, because I'm going to make sure I get by and support both of those events, because supporting women means something to me.
I know it does,
Talisa.
Get there. I know it does. Well, listen, I appreciate you and appreciate everything that you're saying. What's happening on WAVN The Trend today?
Oh, I'm excited to talk to Pastor Hunt. They're having a big walk run in the Whitehaven area over on Everest Person. So we'll dive in that. And then, of course, next week on the Digital Desk, I'll talk more about it as well. And so I want people to understand there are so many great things. The world is open back up. So it does not say you don't need to get your COVID shot, y'all. Get your vaccination. That's a whole nother day for me. The world is open back up, and I'm excited that so many leaders and so many people are putting these events back on and say, hey, we got to get back to what we were doing before, or enjoy life and enjoy our health and wellness. So I'm talking to Pastor Hunt today, and on next week, I'll spotlight what they are doing so people can be a part of their walk. That's going to happen next weekend.
Awesome. Talisa Franklin, WABN, The Trend, with the community, the culture, and the conversation. Always appreciate talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon today, or noon Wednesday, I mean, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but then rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County, going into Ashland and Corinth, but kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis into Fayette County, into Olive Branch, also in Eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid 60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working, so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday, and then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
Okay, I want to give you a heads up on what is coming up this hour here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. As a possible recession looms, our consumer investigator Rachel DePompa talked with an expert about how you do ready yourself and your family for the unexpected. Plus, surviving allergy season. Boy, don't we know it here in the Mid-South. Well, Amanda Hansen has you set up with some tips and some suggestions from a local physician's assistant. And spring means crawfish season. Yes, we got all the info on how to cook it and where to get it in Memphis. That is coming up for you. But first, we got an update to that collision with a train earlier this morning here. These are pictures fresh from the scene here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. At 6 o'clock, this is according to Memphis police, officers responded to the 1500 block of Channel Avenue. This is on President's Island, regarding the crash involving a train. It was that pickup truck that you saw on the back of that tow truck you just watched there. Officers advised that that pickup truck struck the train at that location there at Channel Avenue and Port. Fortunately, no injuries were reported, but this is an ongoing investigation with the Memphis Police Department. So just giving you an update there as we continue to follow that. Also want to tell you about a scam, a weather scam. Spring, as we all know, is coming up March 20th. Warmer temperatures mean a threat for storms when bad weather strikes. Well, a lot of people know that con artists are not too far behind. So we have consumer investigator Carice Jackman explaining how you can spot scammers to avoid, well, let's just say a second disaster.
As the mercury starts to climb and winter fades, for many across the U.S., the threat of severe storms will rise.
You're like me, you live in Tornado Alley. You can kind of set your clock to something, going wrong, around March. So it's always best to have a plan in place because unfortunately, storms strike quickly and the devastation that is incurred sometimes strikes even quicker.
Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau says no matter the region you're in, you should have a personal plan for bad weather and the potential aftermath. But along with that plan, Plano says you should prepare to avoid scammers posing as contractors, the federal government, or charities as they try to steal your personal information and money.
Unfortunately, we see folks who are really looking to weaponize, everything from lumber to, new identification cards and kind of everything in between.
The Federal Communications Commission issued guidelines on staying safe from those posing as legit contractors. If someone calls you about an insurance claim, don't give out any personal information or agree to any payment until you can independently verify that call is legitimate. The FCC also warned contractors may claim to be a partner with your insurance company. They caution to never give policy numbers, coverage details, or other personal information out to companies with whom you have not entered into a contract.
A lot of municipalities require solicitation permits. If salespeople go door to door, should ask for identification, check their vehicle for a business name, a phone number, a license plate for your state or province. Right, it's a pretty typical giveaway if someone is driving in from out of state.
And remember, government disaster assistance agencies do not call or text asking for financial account information, and there is no fee required to apply for or get disaster assistance from FEMA or the Small Business Administration. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Okay, a warning today for any parents considering in-home daycares. One couple is sharing their story, so you know what to ask. It comes after their own child suffered second and third degree burns at a home of his daycare's provider. Their son's doing better now, but his family is still paying thousands in medical bills. Can you believe this? This is an awful situation that our consumer investigator, Rachel DePompa, has more on.
What book do you want, Bubby?
2-year-old Luke Herring loves story time.
Wherever, every day I love you, and I will always love you.
His family is just hopeful he won't remember his story from when he was just 18 months old.
He was screaming bloody murder. It was a horrible scene.
Marianne and David Herring both work and needed flexible childcare for little Luke. They were running up against what many of us face, limited space at daycare facilities and the high cost. More than $10,000 each year. That's the staggering average price families pay for childcare.
Just on a weekly basis, averaging between $210 and $250 a week.
Family friends recommended a woman with a home daycare not far from their house.
Her exact words to us, I'm completely legit. And because she was a family friend, because my neighbors knew her, I just didn't question any further.
On February 8th of 2022, the Herrings got the call no parent ever wants to receive. While the caregiver was making muffins, Luke burned his hands on the inside of an oven door. The Herrings believe there were more children in the daycare than the provider was able to care for.
She put aloe vera on his hand, and that was pretty much it.
Marianne and David drove Luke an hour away to an emergency burn center where he stayed for 18 days. He underwent 5 surgeries.
So you can see the scars there, all through here, as well as all up his hand here.
The family would later find out their provider had no insurance and was not licensed with the state.
Would you use a home daycare again?
No.
No, never.
In every state, the rules to inspect and regulate daycares are different. Some states require home daycares to be licensed, some do not. In many states, a license would mean oversight of things like inspections, set child-to-provider ratios, and insurance requirements.
We found incidents all across this country where children were injured inside at-home daycares, families filing lawsuits in Indiana, Illinois, North Carolina, and Missouri, to name a few. Finding a place for your child, it's already difficult. According to data from the U.S. Census, in April and May of last year, 19% of families couldn't send their child to daycare because of 3 things. It was either the cost, concerns over safety, or their daycare provider just wasn't available.
There are family child care homes out there that are not licensed that are doing a good job. And there are family child care homes out there that are licensed that aren't doing a great job. That's why we're here to help you navigate the system.
Mindy Bennett with Child Care Aware of America says you need to ask the right questions. How long have you been working with children? Are you CPR certified? What type of training do you have? Do you have insurance? And ask to see the documentation. Don't just take their word for it. She also says tour the facility or home and trust your gut. Pay for a background check. Look up a provider's license. Go online and read their ratings, reviews, and inspection reports.
The dinosaurs say.
Luke is doing much better now. The Herrings want other families to learn from their story.
It will forever haunt me that I didn't ask the right questions.
For Investigate TV, I'm Rachel DePompa.
All right, so in Tennessee, the average cost for an infant in family child care in 2021 was $7,518 a year. Memphis police looking into a smash and grab at a GameStop on Winchester here. Let's see. It happened around 2 o'clock this morning. Men involved got away with a bunch of games and PS5s, consoles. No word on any charges here after a 3-year-old was attacked by a pack of pit bulls. This happened on Barton Street, just south of East Essex in South Memphis yesterday. 5 dogs were told attacked the child. The dogs were taken by animal control. No word on what will happen with the dogs. Arkansas Learns Act, it's moving forward after advancing in the Senate Education Committee. It gives superintendents power to create teaching pay schedules and pay scales, allowing teachers to earn more over time based on experience in education. It's going to the Senate before headed to Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' desk for approval. Mother of 25-year-old Jalen Lewis, who was killed by Capitol Police in Jackson, Mississippi, expressed her fears with a panel of legislators and said what could happen if their jurisdiction is expanded. Last year, it expanded to help with shortages within the Jackson Police Department. Under the proposed legislation, the jurisdiction would encompass the entire city of Jackson.
I'm here today because I know there are bills that this legislature has introduced that will expand Capitol Police's authority, possibly to the entire city of Jackson, and that terrifies me. It also angers me. I don't want the tragedy and injustice that happened to Jalen to happen to others in Jackson.
Jalen Lewis was shot and killed by Mississippi Capitol Police after he was reportedly stopped for a traffic violation. Mississippi state leaders have launched an internal investigation of the incident. U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Inspector General is holding a hearing on the conditions at the Peppertree Apartments in Memphis and Whitehaven. Federal funding was stripped from the complex after it was deemed a public nuisance. Current tenants are receiving vouchers from HUD to relocate. 2 people have been killed after apparently being crushed in a stampede at a concert put on by 2 Memphis rappers in New York. Grammy-nominated Glorilla and Fitness 2 Times were performing In Rochester, New York, Sunday, and according to the Rochester Police, someone caused the crowd to surge, possibly sparked by gunfire. Police chief says there's no evidence any shots were fired. One woman still in critical condition, 7 others hurt. We're learning more about crimes reportedly committed by 2 Memphis men, both facing indictments here. Federal authorities say 19-year-old Adrian Pegues and 18-year-old Malik Malone tried to kidnap a woman on December 30th in Germantown. She also got away. Prosecutors also say the 2 carjacked and kidnapped 2 others on December 30th in Germantown, or say they carjacked 2 other people just 10 days earlier, reportedly forcing one of them to withdraw money from an ATM. Pegues and Malone are currently in federal custody. So millions of dollars are coming to Memphis to help clean up over the winter storm last year. Remember this last year? This is last February of 2022. The city will get $17 million in federal funding, mostly a reimbursement for debris removal. Most of that debris, trees, and all more than 1,000 leaning trees were removed. 54,000 hanging limbs were cleared. And as a possible recession looms, nonprofit credit counselors are advising people to prepare in the event that layoffs happen. We have Rachel DePompa in this Watching Your Wallet report talking about how you can ready yourself for the unexpected. Take a look.
Losing an income to a layoff is an overwhelming thought for most people. There are natural questions. How do you pay bills and juggle creditors? Which money decisions are the most important? Jackie Boyce is Senior Director of Partner Relations at Money Management International. That's a nonprofit credit counseling agency. She says because the economy is so questionable, you should have a plan in place just in case the worst happens and you are laid off, especially if you start to hear those rumblings that layoffs are coming in your company. Don't stick your head in the sand. The first step is prioritizing your home.
The roof over your head, whether you're a renter or a home buyer, is going to be most important in the event of a layoff. You have other creditors that you probably owe money to, and you'll want to make contact with those folks and let them know your current situation.
Follow up on any requests for documentation or information and just work with your individual creditors on a plan. In many cases, those companies will be able to help you through a hardship program.
Your credit card may have insurance on it that will cover payments on it while you are unemployed. Your mortgage definitely has options for you to assist with payments when you're laid off or unemployed.
Even a landlord, if you're a renter, may have some sort of program to help you cover a period of time when you're unemployed or underemployed. And if you need help and you feel overwhelmed, you can always reach out to a credit counselor. They're not going to tell you what to do, but they can see your overall financial situation and help you make practical decisions. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
All right. Well, how about the spring, the summer months? I know I'm looking forward to them. It's starting to feel like that outside here in the Mid-South. But of course, with that comes allergy season, and no one likes that. The sniffles, the sneezing, the itchy eyes. Well, joining us now to talk more about how to deal with it, the best treatment options, is physician's assistant Victoria Vanacore. She is with St. Francis Medical Partners. Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad that audio is working perfectly and we can get things going. So I guess let's go ahead and dive in and just talk about some of the causes that lead to these allergies that are just so.
Yeah, so here in the Memphis area, we rank in the top 3 cities for seasonal allergies. The springtime especially can be very brutal here. It is not the flowers really to blame for the spring allergies as much as the tree pollens. Right now, a lot of the trees are in bloom. Pecan, walnut, cedar, birch willow, all of these are the most predominant allergies that we are seeing in the springtime here in this area.
And so let's go ahead and talk about the symptoms. You're mentioning it is awful here in the Mid-South when it comes to allergies. I have friends that moved from other parts of the country to Memphis, and they're just like, I never had allergies, and now I'm dealing with the mess of them. And now they're like, I understand why it's so annoying. So let's just talk about some of the symptoms that some people experience with this type of thing.
Absolutely. So allergy symptoms can range from a mere inconvenience to really debilitating symptoms. Most commonly, itchy eyes, watery eyes, runny nose, stuffy nose, nasal congestion. It varies, from person to person. But like I said, here in the Mid-South, if you're an allergy sufferer, this is a tough time of year for a lot of people. Some people get that ear fullness where your ears feel really clogged. And again, that's just all due to this pollen.
And I guess the big thing people want to know is if I'm dealing with this, if all of a sudden, I'm dealing with the itchy eyes, the kind of the cold-like symptoms, what are some of the best ways to maybe handle something like that? Is it something like Claritin, or what would you recommend for people to be able to kind of help ease those symptoms?
Absolutely. So over the counter, we have a lot of medications that are available for us to combat these allergies. I usually recommend to my patients starting on these antihistamines usually in February or so that we can build that antihistamine level up in our system, so we're ready when everything is in full bloom, which is usually by the beginning of March here. As you can see, these last few days have been pretty bad with the pollen. So Claritin, Zyrtec, Allegra, those are all over-the-counter options that are good. Of course, speaking with your medical provider to see what's best for you is certainly important. There are also nasal sprays available that contain steroids, such as Flonase or Nasonex, also available over the counter. So we do have a lot of options, and it's very important that we educate our patients on what those options are.
And I think a lot of people sometimes don't. Is there a difference when you talk about having a cold and allergies? Because a lot of times it seems like the symptoms are very similar. At what point would you maybe say, I need to go see a doctor? Or is there really much of a difference when you start to think about the symptoms and whatnot?
So there is. Typically, of course, the symptoms do overlap. Common cold is caused by a virus. Viruses tend to run their course 5 to 10 days in most healthy people. Viruses resolve. So the problem with allergy symptoms is if they are not managed, these symptoms persist for a very long time, throughout the entire season sometimes. So you're talking about months. The other thing is, viruses, colds tend to cause fever, whereas allergies do not. So that's a real big indicator. If you're not running a fever, but you're just constantly congested with those symptoms, then you really should consider that it is allergy.
Good advice, good information there. Anything else you want to mention as far as preventative type measures that people can take? Do dehumidifiers help? Is there other things outside of just the medications that can help?
Absolutely. So, some people are a little hesitant to take something every day. We have other options. You can simply use a nasal saline, which is just salt water to help flush your nasal cavities, flush those sinus cavities. Also changing the air filters in your home. In the wintertime, these mold spores just go inactive, and as the spring comes, these reactivate. So changing those filters out, most filters will tell you every 90 days to change them. So every spring, definitely, get those filters changed. If you're working outside, if you're doing yard work, wearing an N95 mask is very helpful so that you are not inhaling all of these allergens.
Good tips there. And outside of just the spring and summer and the allergy season and whatnot, I know a week from now we're going to be springing forward, so we're going to lose an hour of sleep. And of course, they talk about how that can have impacts on your body and that sort of thing. Do you have any advice for people as we go to make that shift to maybe help ease that transition a little bit?
Yes, so daylight savings is always a tough time of year. Losing that hour of sleep is never easy, especially when you have young kids at home. They don't quite understand the time change either. One thing I always recommend is starting early even now, about a week in advance, just going to bed about 15 minutes earlier each night so that you can prepare yourself for that time change so that you're still getting your solid sleep every night. You know, ideally 7 to 9 hours per night is the sleep that our bodies require. And when you lose that hour, if you don't prepare early, you could find yourself extremely tired that day of daylight savings.
And for me, I will say I do like I don't like losing the hour of sleep. I don't think anybody does. But I will say that I do enjoy having that additional sunlight in the evenings and whatnot. I mean, are there benefits to having that additional sunlight when it comes to that sort of thing?
There is. Our bodies need sunlight. We need to make sure we're getting adequate sunlight. That increases the serotonin levels in our brain and allows us to function well every day. So definitely getting up and getting that sunlight, you know, taking advantage. You know, the days are a little bit longer. We do have a little more sunlight as far as, you know, the sun setting later since that clock goes forward. So definitely make sure you're getting plenty of sunlight. You know, if we can be outside, getting that light, getting our exercise, staying in a routine too with our sleep. It's important to wind down in the evening times, have a good nighttime routine, whether that's reading a book or just laying in a nice, quiet, dark room. Getting those screens put away. A lot of people on their iPads or iPhones at night, that could be very detrimental to our sleeping habits. So daylight savings aside, we want to make sure we are putting those devices down at least 1 to 2 hours before heading into bed for the evening.
For sure, people don't realize how important sleep is when it comes to their overall health. Victoria Vanacore, physician's assistant with St. Francis Medical Partners, I appreciate your time this morning, and you have a good rest of the day, all right?
Thank you so much.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon today, or noon Wednesday, I mean, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but then rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County going into Ashland and Corinth. But kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis into Fayette County into Olive Branch, also in eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid 60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working, so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday. And then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
All right, let's switch gears here and let's talk about a brand new study. It finds that managers are shouldering the burden of mental well-being at the workforce these days. Mental health, of course, a big concern, especially coming out of the pandemic. Well, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 12 billion workdays are lost each year to conditions like depression and anxiety. Mental health conditions can directly affect a person's quality of life, including their productivity at work. Let's bring in right now Dr. Joe DeGrasso. He is a PhD. He's a senior director of the workforce transformation at Lyra Health, and he's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Dr. Grasso, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Andrew?
Not too bad, not too bad. Working on a number of different things here, but mental health is always an issue that I kind of stop everything and pay attention to because it's so prevalent. And it doesn't matter what background you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, people are finding mental health issues everywhere. And it's affecting their work, and it's affecting how productive they are. Where did you see in this study about mental health?
Well said, and what our study found echoes a lot of what you just mentioned. We found that 86% of workers that we surveyed across the United States reported that they had struggled with their mental health at least once in the past year alone, but only 33% reported that they had gotten any kind of care or treatment for their mental health. And when you combine that with the fact that 60% said that their mental health affects their ability to work, it really became clear that not only is this an issue for individuals, but it becomes a critical problem to solve for employers as well.
You know, it's interesting. It also said that that managers really shoulder the brunt of this mental health crisis that we're dealing with now. And I know a few managers, and they tell me all about this. It's such an issue right now. Why do you think that is, and how do we improve that?
It's true. Managers really feel the squeeze, because they have to report up to leadership in ways that hold them accountable for productivity and production from their team. But they're also answering to a team of employees that are more attuned to mental health than ever and recognize that a manager holds a lot of the cards when it comes to curbing risk of burnout and work-related stress. And so what managers need from their employer are more resources around how to recognize when work might be causing distress or mental health harm to teams, recognizing when an employee might need a referral to a mental health benefit or resource, and also recognizing that they need tools to lead teams in ways that create mentally healthy work cultures.
So, Doctor, what do we do to strengthen the workplace well-being for everybody out there? Because it really needs a lot of emphasis, and it feels like it just needs a lot of TLC.
It does, and we need to attack it from a few different angles. We need to make sure that employers are providing mental health benefits that get people into care quickly and get them matched with the provider who's well suited for their needs. So that way, when a manager does recognize someone's in distress, they can trust that that person's going to get the help that they need. Then we also need to train managers in how to lead these teams in ways that prevent the risk that work itself is causing distress. And so there's interventions that need to happen from within the company, but then there are also benefits and resources that employees need outside the company to get necessary care.
Can you share maybe some strategies, if there were some bullet points right now with our viewers? We have thousands of people watching us right now. Maybe some strategies out there that can help managers and others with the workplace and mental health well-being right now?
Absolutely. If you're a manager, I want you to hear the message that prioritizing your mental health is not only important for you, it's important for your team. And this can be simple things happening in the workplace, like making sure you're taking vacation, and when you do, you make sure to be fully offline and disconnected so that your team knows that they have permission to prioritize their mental health and be fully disconnected when they're away from work. Same thing with setting boundaries around work hours, not sending emails at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And lastly, not going it alone. If you're a manager dealing with complex or tricky issues at work, model what it looks like to ask for help so that your team can recognize that it's okay to reach out for support when they're needing some extra help too.
What else, Joe? We've touched on a number of different things. Is there anything else you want to mention to our viewers that you feel might be beneficial to them?
Just to recognize that mental health is a universal issue. As you were mentioning earlier, everyone is affected by their own state of mental health. And no matter what your state of mental health is, it's worth you prioritizing investment into it. So this means doing things like ensuring you're getting good physical activity, you're socializing, you're getting good sleep, you're making sure to stop and maybe reflect with some gratitude on things that are going well in life, but also know that if your own attempts at taking care of yourself aren't cutting it, if you're still struggling with your thoughts or emotions or behavior that you're wanting to change, those are all good indicators that reaching out for mental health support from a professional is a really good idea.
Joe, this is a great conversation to have. Where can people go to get some more information? Maybe some of the things that you discussed.
Sure. To learn more about anything that we discussed, whether that's manager strategies or how you can take care of your own wellness, or to read all of the findings from our report, you can visit our site at Lyra, L-Y-R-A, health.com.
Okay, Joe Grasso, PhD, Senior Director of Workforce Transformation. We really appreciate the discussion. Very helpful and just shining a light on something that really needs to be addressed, not only this year, but going forward into the future. Thank you very much. Okay, so Memphis Zoo workers say the necropsy performed on giant panda Lala has been complete. Lala passed away last month, and necropsy was performed to determine cause of death here. So officials say they're still waiting on pathology findings to be completed. Representatives from Zoo Atlanta, Smithsonian National Zoo, the Chinese Association of Zoological Gardens, and Memphis Zoo performed the necropsy together. All right, if your cell phone bill goes up, it's likely because Verizon is making all those bills go up. It's the old Verizon bills. So the company says it's raising prices on some of its older cell phone plans. Verizon hopes the price hike will be an incentive to get customers to switch to its latest 5G plan. But people who prefer to stay on their older plans are going to have to pay $2 extra a month. Change takes effect April 10th. All right, a warning about false spring for you plant moms and dads. Researchers say now is not the time to plant your vegetables because you got a frost coming up. Usually it is April 15th. They say just because we're seeing warm temperatures today doesn't mean that the cold can't or won't come back. Looking at the last couple of springs, they say wait a little bit longer. Again, April 15th is the time.
The last couple of springs we've been so cold late, like into May, and it's really messed a lot of gardens up. But you can pretty much guarantee, around April 15th, give or take, that's going to be close to our last frost date. But it has been cold in May.
Irish potatoes, beets, and other stuff meant to be planted this time of the year, but not vegetables that wouldn't survive a frost. Okay, the Georgette and Cato Johnson YMCA in Whitehaven is now open to the public. Comes after the old building was torn down to make room for the new facilities. Wellness center, indoor-outdoor pools, spaces for young children and teens. People who live in the Whitehaven community say the YMCA has been a part of their lives for years, and they're excited about the reopening.
I came here for some aerobic classes years ago, and also my grandchildren learned to swim here at this one.
New YMCA located at 4727 Elvis Presley Boulevard. Okay, March brings with it the first day of spring on March 20th, of course. A reminder that bringing an overwhelming feeling with all those spring cleanings do's and don'ts and the onslaught of some seasonal allergies. Ariana Poindexter has more.
The beginning of March usually brings with it good deals on the stuff you'll need to get ready for the warmer months ahead. Consumer Reports tracks the prices of many of its top tested products all year long, so it knows exactly when to shop for them. Here are the top products to look out for in this month's best time to buy.
March is the first month of the year without any major shopping holidays, but there are still opportunities to save on something you might need right now. Our research has shown that air purifiers and vacuums tend to be especially affordable this month.
The Samsung JetBot AI Plus is on sale for as low as $679.95 at Samsung. CR says this robotic vacuum is an all-around champ in its tests for cleaning carpet, bare floors, pet hair, and the edges of walls and corners. Next, nip spring allergies in the bud by keeping pollen at bay with an air purifier. This Blue Air Protect air purifier is as low as $380.99 at Best Buy. In CR's test, this air purifier received excellent marks when removing dust, smoke, and pollen. Be the first in the neighborhood to have your lawn looking fresh this season with the new string trimmer. This DeWalt string trimmer is now as low as $195.16 at Amazon. This battery-powered trimmer aced CR's tests and is a great overall value. And don't forget about items you can save money on now that you can use for those cooler March days and then stash away for next year. This Vornado space heater is as low as $159.99 at Amazon. CR says this is the best overall performer of all the space heaters in its tests. Enjoy the month with high-quality products and savings.
All right, let's take a break right now from that, and let's talk about colon health because it is March, and we're always looking for ways to improve our health. And March is one of those where it's Colon Cancer Awareness Month. And let's bring in dietitian to the Action News 5 digital desk, Leslie Eli. She joins us now from Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Leslie, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's talk about the link between nutrition and cancer. Is there one? And if so, what?
Sure. So the American Cancer Society does say that about 18% of all cancers and about 16% of cancer deaths are linked to maybe excessive body weight, physical inactivity, and just overall poor nutrition. So this is a great time to be talking about this with Colon Cancer Awareness Month, but it's also National Nutrition Month as well.
Okay, that's interesting. They both go hand in hand, it sounds like. So March, Colon Cancer Awareness Month. What are the best types of food to support good colon health?
So when we're talking colon health, we want high fiber. We want to increase that fiber in our diet, and we want to think about things like probiotics. So when we talk about fiber, we want more fruits and veggies. Think about trying to eat vegetables and fruits with the skins on them. So like our apples, our potatoes, that's where that fiber is going to be found in those. We want to increase our whole grains. We want to try to make half of our grains at least whole grains. And those are things like quinoa, barley, farro, oats, doing brown rice or wild rice instead of white rice. But also including things like beans and legumes. So these are perfect additions to soups and casseroles, like black beans, kidney beans, lentils. And then we're also going to want to increase our probiotic-rich foods. So things like yogurt, kombucha, kimchi, kefir, all of those things help flourish and revamp the gut flora in our colon, and can also just be really overall tasty additions to our meals.
I'm curious about a couple things when it comes to colon health. Red meat and sugar. What can you tell me about that?
So we definitely want to be proactive in trying to reduce the amount of red meat that we're eating, and focus on leaner cuts of meat like chicken, turkey, fish, but also even trying plant-based and some of these like beans and legumes that we've already talked about. Those can be easy swaps for protein in our meals that are not red meats. And then as far as sugar goes, same thing. We want to try to reduce our overall intake of sugar if we can, and just do more of our fiber-rich foods, our plant-based foods, and make that a priority for our colon health. Sugary drinks and beverages can lead to insulin resistance, and that can increase, our risk of colon cancer as well.
We know exercise is good on so many different levels, Leslie. Does exercise help the colon? If so, how?
Sure. Exercise keeps our bowels regular, helps reduce constipation, and again, just keeps our colon cancer risk lower. So there's no wrong way to move. If you like hiking, running, yoga, dancing, whatever it is, just try to get moving more each day.
Okay, and then what about meal prepping? A lot of people like to meal prep, plan ahead. Do you have maybe some tips that we can use if we're meal planning?
Sure. So the easiest way I think to start is to have a plan, make a list, and sit down and plan out your whole meals for the week. I find it easier if you are more aware at the beginning of the week, saying, okay, I'm going to really try to increase my vegetables, add more whole grains. You can maybe even cook once and use it twice. So make a double portion of something and use it in 2 different meals. Also trying to pre-prepare your snacks. So doing fruits and veggies as your snacks, even making like a yogurt dip for them. So kind of adding in multiple of those foods that we've talked about. And also just not forgetting to prepare as far as your fluid intake by packing your water bottle and taking that with you, so you always have access to that during the day.
Where can we go? You've mentioned a bunch of things, Leslie. Where can we go to get some of this information online?
So you can always look on eatright.org. That's our dietitian's professional platform. They have a lot of good information about colon health on there. The Cancer Society also had information when I was glancing at it. Always reach out to a registered dietitian if you have more questions or concerns. We have dietitians here at Methodist that are definitely open to talking about that. Cancer.org is going to be a good place to look for these resources as well.
Okay, Leslie Ely, Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare dietitian. We appreciate any kind of tips and tricks and suggestions and ways to improve our health. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon Wednesday, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but the rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County going into Ashland and Corinth, but kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis Memphis, into Fayette County, into Olive Branch, also in eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid-60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday, and then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and if you're not hungry right now, you're about to be, because on Wednesdays, we like to talk with Commercial Appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler. She's always bringing us the good eats around the Mid-South. Jennifer, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, except for I don't like this weather forecast.
I know, right? I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want any rain. It's gloomy outside. We're halfway through the week. So, yeah, it is what it is. But you know what? We'll get through it. We'll get through it. And I know today... Today we're talking about crawfish, and before we really dive in, I lived in Arkansas for several years, you know this, and it seemed like every other weekend it was a crawfish boil. It was part of like summer and spring, and so I was so excited to be talking about this today.
Yes, I mean, it definitely is. It's like Herald Spring. I mean, you know, March is now here pretty much, and spring is, you know, daffodils are springing, and that means crawfish are available. So the season traditionally runs kind of like mid to end of February through May or June. For me, the ones that become in the beginning of February tend to be a little smaller. They're a little more expensive. So in my opinion, it really kind of kicks off right now at the beginning of March. And March and April and the beginning of May are the best time to enjoy crawfish. So in my opinion, every weekend you should be partaking in crawfish somewhere, somehow. And what's really cool is there are so many options to get crawfish here in Memphis. There's so many more than there used to be. So you can get authentic crawfish boils, and most of this crawfish is brought up from Louisiana and boiled fresh right there. And it's just like the same experience you would have if you were visiting New Orleans.
And I have some video that I snagged from commercialappeal.com. And I don't know if you want to go ahead and start going through your list of spots, like where people can go to maybe find.
I'm going to tell you some of the ones you can do, because it's pretty crazy how it's all over the city of Memphis. And so I have a little cheat sheet right here. I might look at it every once in a while. But one of my favorites that I've been going to a long time, Cajun Crawdads, that's a good one, is that Billy's Crawfish in Hernando. That is a great one to go to. Billy Crumley has been bringing up crawfish from Louisiana every week for years and years and years now. I've had it boiled from his truck, and I've also bought live from him myself for parties. Crawfish Cabin, if you're looking for one that's in the city of limits of Memphis, it's at Walnut Grove and Houston Levee, and they talk about how they have the really spicy New Orleans style crawfish. I believe they also do boiled shrimp as well. You might need to double check that to make sure they're doing that this year. Crawfish Shack, which is on Poplar and June Road, which is basically Poplar and Yates in front of, I believe that store there is called Oxbow. They're there every week and serving up crawfish. That's really convenient for those that live in the city of Memphis. Right down the road too is Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is at 5133 Park. Those are the two that are really kind of in the heart of Memphis proper. One of the funny things, there's Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is in Memphis, but Memphis Crawfish Company 1 has been in Olive Branch for they're celebrating their 20th year this year. And so Memphis Crawfish Company 2 is run by somebody else, but they buy all their crawfish and have it brought up from Memphis Crawfish Company 1. So there are lots of places that are, these are all that I talked about are food trucks. And so most of these places serve you know, boiled seafood, and you can also order live seafood, live crawfish from them if you want to boil your own. Most, you have to check on my list I have on commercialappeal.com. I have all of this information, or you can go to their social media sites or their websites. But most are open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. Most sell out by Sunday. And if you want to order live crawfish, you really need to do it like at the beginning of the week, because these people drive down to Louisiana like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and drive it back up here. So it is super fresh live crawfish. I'm also going to mention a couple of places that you can go to if you do want more of a restaurant experience versus a food truck. Glaze's Crawfish, Glaze Hardage, he has a side business that he does, and he does a great job. I think that's a picture from one of his boils, if I'm not sure. But he cooks every Saturday during the season at Max's Sports Bar down on downtown. It's kind of in the South Main area. It's kind of right down the street from the arcade. And then this year, every Sunday, he is going to be cooking at Laughlin Yard. So you can go to either one of those places and get your crawfish and get a cocktail or a beer to go with it. Billy's Crawfish, I mentioned Billy Crumley. He has his food truck, but he also has a restaurant in Hernando called Crossroads Seafood. And you can get everything from boiled crawfish there to gator to, he has a really good a shrimp kind of bisque, a shrimp chowder that he does, a seafood chowder that's really, really good. And then also Rail Garden will be hosting boils every Thursday night during the season. So it just, you know, a lot of those things I would say, these outdoor ones at venues like Laughlin Yard and Rail Garden, just check their social media if the weather's bad. Because sometimes if the weather is bad, they're not going to host them. But sometimes they do them in the rain. So it's just, if you're really hungry for crawfish, there are lots of options you can go to.
I'm probably going to be going to either Rail Garden or Laughlin because, for one, I like the atmosphere of those places. It kind of reminds me of what your traditional crawfish boil would be like, because it seemed like we'd always put the red and white checkered cloth across the table. You just dump it all out on the table and you eat, and you have the big garbage can, and it's kind of just like, I don't know. I love it. I love it. And so it's so much fun. And I know you were going to talk a little bit about how to cook crawfish. And one thing I wanted to ask, do you normally are you the kind of the traditionalist when it comes to like the corn, the potatoes, or do you kind of throw some other stuff in there to make it fun?
Well, that's one of my tips that I'm going to give you. But yes, I normally do all of the normal things, but I have a friend who introduced me to throwing Brussels sprouts into your crawfish boil. And it is so, so good. Now, I did take a moment and, I've been cooking crawfish myself. We've hosted crawfish boils for years. And I giggle when you said you put down a red and white checkered tablecloth, because you're much more fancier than we are, because I just throw down newspapers.
Hey, that works too, right?
Yeah, I work for the paper. I have newspapers now. One of the things that I talked to him for a minute to Glaze Hardage to get his expert tips to make sure that I was doing everything correct as far as doing my crawfish. And luckily, most of the things I was doing correctly. So I want to make sure I was excited to hear that. But one of the first things he says that when you are cooking live crawfish is you need to give your crawfish a bath. Because, they don't call them mud bugs for nothing. They are covered in mud, and because they burrow down in the mud. And so you want to get all of that stuff off of them before you cook them. So the easiest way to do that is to put your crawfish in a bucket or in some type of tub, put the hose in it, and just keep running the cold water on it until the water runs clear. That's simple to do. So always give your, number one tip, always give your crawfish, your mud bugs, a bath so that they're no longer muddy. Then when it comes to seasoning, you can always, this is some tips that I learned. Glaze goes all out when he does his seasoning. I've always used like crab boil or crawfish dry seasoning and kind of left it, maybe thrown some lemons in there, maybe some garlic, and left it at that. But I'm looking at my list right now just so I can tell you all the things that Glaze puts in his seasoning blend. He puts crawfish dry seasoning. He puts liquid crab boil. He puts lemons and lemon juice. He puts hot sauce. He puts garlic. He puts onions, celery salt, and then if that's not spicy enough, he adds a little bit of cayenne to kind of kick it up another notch. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Wow. Well, and for me, I'm one of those people that I want to be crying when I'm eating my food. I like it that spicy. I'm one of those people. So to me, I'm like, ooh, that sounds amazing. And I know you were talking about putting Brussels sprouts in there, which I have had before. It is delicious, like you said. But I've even had people that put okra in there or mushrooms, and it's actually pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glaze told me that he, in addition to the corn and sausage and potatoes, I love the idea of okra. I've never done that before. I'm gonna try that this year. But he also has put these things. Some of these things are crazy. He's put pineapple in there. He's put asparagus. He's put baby carrots. He's put sweet potatoes. Now he doesn't do that at the crawfish boils that you're gonna go to at Max's Sports Bar or Laughlin Yard. But when he's cooking for his friends and family, and he'll throw all of these kind of crazy things in there to kind of mix it up. And one of the things I always tell people in morning is when you take a bite of corn or potato, you think you're going to take a bite of that so that it's a little less, that you're going to be calming down the heat. I found actually sometimes those things are spicier than the crawfish themselves.
I agree. And I like the idea of pineapple. I could see how that would work, with the spiciness and kind of paired with the sweetness. I could see how that would actually work. That sounds like a good idea that I would have never thought to try.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one more tip since you like them spicy. Is one of the things that Glaze says to do is always, after your crawfish is cooked, let it soak for about 20 to 30 minutes. So all of those flavors and spices really infuse into the meat and all of your sides that you have thrown in there. But one of the things that's, you kind of need to reduce the heat a little bit. So what he does, he suggested a couple of things. You could throw ice in there, but that'll kind of dilute, all the spices. So he often will throw frozen corn, like the corn on the, little corn on the cob that you often see at crawfish boils. He'll throw those in there to reduce the temperature. Or he talked about, and I have to go look this up. He says there's a new gadget called the Boil Boss, and it somehow you put it around your pot, and it circulates cold water around the pot to reduce the temperature to the ideal temperature so that when you can allow your crawfish to soak. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like something that I would probably see on an infomercial, and it would tell me 10 reasons why I should buy it, and I would automatically buy it because I'm like, this is amazing. But it's so cool, the gadgets they have out there right now, and my kitchen is actually full of all kinds of, I like to cook. So, yeah, but that sounds interesting. I've never even heard of that, so. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I always tell people, when you go to a crawfish boil, if it's your first time to eat crawfish, don't be daunted. They are these little crustaceans that you're kind of pulling apart and you're eating with your hands. And there's always usually somebody at the party or somebody there that is from Louisiana or has been eating them their whole life. Or you can invite me and I'll come over and I'll show you how to eat them. But don't be afraid to do that and to get your hands all messy. And it's one of those things that you eat the tails and you suck the heads. All those good juices from the spices, especially if you like things spicy, is suck that meat and that juice out of that head, and it is just, it's so good.
It's so good. No, I'm right there with you. And I love this. And all this information is on commercialappeal.com. You even have a video on there. I saw that on how to eat crawfish. So if people have never had crawfish before and they need to know the process from a pro, you have all that covered for everybody.
Yeah, and there are more places than we mentioned on that list too. I do this list. I selfishly do this list for me every year because I love to eat crawfish so much. And it's a full list. It has their hours. It has the links to their websites or their social media. Tells you kind of what they offer, and that whole list is up there for you. So depending on what part of town you're in, there is an option for you. But just remember, if you're going to order boiled crawfish, order live crawfish to boil yourself, you want to do that. My rule of thumb is I always order on Monday. And most of these people just let you email them or text them or call them. It's a pretty easy process.
Great. Well, Jennifer, we love having you on each and every time that you join us, and you're always bringing it. So you have a great rest of your day, and I am looking so forward to crawfish season.
Yeah. Enjoy some this weekend.
See you next time.
Today, people living with HIV can expect to live as long as the general population thanks to the discovery and development of effective treatments. Right now on the digital desk, we are joined by Dr. Harmony Garges, Chief Medical Officer at ViiV Healthcare. Doctor, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. How has living with HIV changed over the years to today?
Well, it's changed so much in the last 40 years. It's really been quite amazing. When you think about when HIV was first discovered 40 years ago, we didn't have any effective therapies. And unfortunately, many people died of HIV and AIDS while waiting for medicines to be developed. Then we did develop medicines to treat the virus, but the older regimens were complicated. Multiple pills, multiple times a day, difficult to tolerate, and it was really challenging for people to adhere to those regimens. Fast forward to today, and thankfully now we have simplified regimens that are much better tolerated. So we've really made huge advances in HIV treatment to the point that people now should be living long and fulfilling lives with their HIV. The one area, though, that has not changed as much as we would like is in the area of stigma and discrimination. So despite the advances we've made in therapy, unfortunately, many people living with HIV still face stigma and discrimination, and this provides a real barrier to them getting the care that they need.
Let's talk about treatment and how it's progressed, and where do you think it's going next?
Sure. So HIV treatment has changed dramatically. In the early days, people would have to take whole cocktails of pills to treat their virus, sometimes 20 pills in one day. And again, they had really undesirable side effects. So as we optimize therapy, we've now moved to where most people can take one pill once a day. And now we even have long-acting regimens on the market where people can take injectable medications every 2 months to treat their HIV. So we've made huge progress, but our work is not finished, and we're continuing to look for new medicines to deliver to people living with HIV, and especially focused on that long-acting therapy area, trying to develop medicines that will go even longer between dosing intervals.
Dr. Garges, I know that there's this conference, the CROI conference, a medical meeting that really brings together scientists and doctors from around the world to share the latest advances in technology when it comes to HIV. What came out of the latest conference? Can you tell us?
Absolutely. CROI is an incredible conference, one of the premier HIV conferences we have every year. And at ViiV Healthcare, it's such a privilege to be part of that conference that really is focused on advances in both HIV treatment and HIV prevention. I'd like to share with you positive findings from one of our studies that we presented at CROI. that really looked at people on a commonly prescribed oral daily pill known as Biktarvy versus going on to our long-acting regimen known as Cabenuva, which is again administered every 2 months. And there were 3 really important takeaways from this study that compared these 2 regimens. First, we demonstrated that the long-acting regimen was just as effective as having to take a daily oral pill with a similar safety profile other than injection site reactions occurring with the long-acting therapy. But interestingly, what we also showed was people who entered the trial on this oral daily medication, nearly half of them reported a psychological burden with having to take that pill every day, that daily reminder of their HIV. And then when they moved to the long-acting injectable, their treatment satisfaction improved, and 90% of them said they preferred the long-acting option. So to me, this just reinforces the need for different options, different therapies, and really having an individual conversation between physician and patient about their choices so that the patient and doctor can make the right choices for that individual.
Interesting stuff here, Doctor. Where can people go to learn more information?
So first, I would encourage anyone living with HIV to please have a conversation with your healthcare provider about these different treatment options so you can understand what's best for you. And to learn more about this long-acting regimen, please visit our website, cabenuva.lai.com, for more information.
Okay, Dr. Harmony Garges, we appreciate you. Thanks for the update and advances in HIV treatment and technology. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, another terrifying incident aboard a commercial airliner is shining a spotlight on aviation safety once again. Brian Todd reports.
Passengers scream. Smoke fills the cabin aboard a Southwest Airlines flight from Havana to Fort Lauderdale. Southwest says the plane experienced bird strikes shortly after takeoff yesterday. Smoke seen here coming out of one of the engines. The plane forced to return to Havana, where passengers had to evacuate.
Some people went out on the wing, some people jumped down the slides.
It was really hard to know how long we were going to survive trying to breathe in that.
The latest in a recent series of scares in the skies. On Friday, a private business jet traveling from New Hampshire to Northern Virginia experienced severe turbulence. A woman on board killed. The plane had to divert to Bradley International Airport in Connecticut.
Requesting medical assistance on the runway.
That came just a couple of days after a Lufthansa jumbo jet flying from Austin, Texas to Frankfurt, Germany, experienced turbulence so serious that the plane had to divert to Washington Dulles Airport, and 7 people were taken to the hospital. Passengers said the plane fell at least 1,000 feet, with one telling CNN it was, quote, like unexpectedly free-falling for 5 seconds off the top of a roller coaster. Experts say in those harrowing moments, flight attendants are in serious danger.
The carts that they're moving can weigh in excess of 300 pounds. And you hit some clear air turbulence, that cart hits the ceiling, the roof of the aircraft, it can kill people.
And analysts have this warning for passengers.
When you're sitting in your seat in an airliner or any aircraft, wear that seatbelt because it is pretty unpredictable.
In December, at least 25 people were injured, many of them taken to emergency rooms after a Hawaiian Airlines flight encountered severe turbulence. Why so many incidents of turbulence recently?
It's winter. That's when clear air turbulence in particular tends to rear up. But secondly, scientists are looking at whether it's the change in the jet streams that are being brought about by climate change.
And more close calls on the ground. The wing of one United Airlines plane struck the tail of another as it was pushing back from the gate Boston Logan Airport. This incident and more runway incursions recently, experts say, are indications of an overloaded system.
With the limitations of concrete, the limitations of the runway and taxiways, absolutely stressed to the max, it's actually a wonder these things don't happen more often.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. I want to tell you about Camp Say. It is a free 2-day performing arts camp for young people who stutter. It is a place where every young person is celebrated for who they are and given as much time as they need to express themselves fully. And these are some of the pictures from the camp. in years past. I want to bring in Jennifer McGrath, Vice President of Education and Community Engagement at the Orpheum Theater Group, to talk more about Camp Say. Jennifer, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're with us. So tell us about Camp Say.
Well, like you said, Camp Say is a program that we've been running here in Memphis since 2018 at the Orpheum, and we work in partnership with an organization called SAY, the Stuttering Association for the Young, based out of New York City. And we host this, as you described, this 2-day free mini camp for young people who stutter, where they are given as much time as they need to speak and express themselves fully through all sorts of creative practices, and mostly around community building. Essentially, what we're saying is that we think you speak beautifully exactly as you speak, and we want to hold time and space for you to come together with other young people who also stutter, and we want to hear what you have to say and how you learn to express yourself.
How long has it been going on, and what has been the response when you guys have after the camp?
Yeah, so, well, the organization SAY in New York City has been around since 2001, believe it or not. And we began this program, this satellite program here in Memphis in 2018. So I actually just checked that this spring will be our 9th session of Camp Say. And it's super exciting because, to answer your question, a lot of the young people that are coming to this program maybe have never met another young person who stutters. Maybe they feel like they are completely alone, like they're the only one, that they're hesitant or nervous to speak up, right? And to answer your question, in just 2 short days, they've suddenly built and developed this whole community of people that are just like them. They've made new friends, they've had a ton of fun, and they've been able to express themselves and share all the incredible gifts that are inside of all of them just by holding a little bit of extra time for them to speak. So I think what's really incredible is that in 48 hours, we see a tremendous journey, a tremendous boost in confidence, a tremendous networking that develops. And we also hold space for the parents and caregivers of the young people to come together and talk about what it means to be raising a young person who stutters and what the effects of that are on the young person, on the family. So really, really building a network of people and just seeing so many people make so much progress and grow so much in such a short time, while also having a lot of fun.
So it's at the Halloran Center there from March 18th and 19th. Tell us, is this a classroom setting? You know, we've seen some of the B-roll. It looks like some of the video there. It looks like they're doing all kinds of things, moving around. Take us through a day in the life of this camp.
Sure. Well, our camp is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, and breakfast and lunch are provided. And I share that only because we sort of ease the campers in, right? You have the beauty of having the camp been here for so long is that now we have a lot of returning campers that come back year after year, session after session, that know exactly what to expect. And so they come in ready to go. But we also have a lot of new people coming into this space. And like I said, maybe they're a little bit nervous, a little bit timid. So we like to ease in with the meal, just kind of get everybody settled in the space. And then essentially we spend a lot of time getting to know one another, and also really living into the premise, the value that everyone gets as much time as they need to speak, whether that is 2 seconds, 2 minutes, or 2 hours. We are going to hold space for you. This is an environment that is completely free of any kind of ridicule or bullying. It's all positive, uplifting, affirming time and space. And so we really just spend a lot of time getting to know one another so that the young people can learn about other people who stutter, and also just helping them to feel comfortable speaking with their stutter. We play a lot of fun games, which is always a really great time. We have amazing food at lunch, and then we spend the afternoons primarily creating things. And we believe that the young people should get to create whatever they want. So they're writing poems, they're creating dances, some of them write songs, they do animation and drawing, they're creating skits and scenes, you name it, creative writing, drawing, you name it. They are developing developing creative means to express their thoughts and ideas. Then on the second day, we do a little bit more team building, a little bit more games and fun, and of course those delicious meals. And then we invite anyone who wishes to share some of the creative things that they've made for their friends and family. So any parents, caregivers, etc., that want to come and observe. Nobody is forced to share anything because, of course, we know that's a pretty big ask, right, to get up on stage and share something that you've created. But I'm also really proud to say that almost every single time we've got almost every young person up there sharing a little bit about what they made and letting their voice be heard. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is make space for that.
So, and it's important to mention that this is a free camp for anyone. And I'm curious, do people come back every year? Do you see some of the same people? And how many people do we see? And what are the ages that we typically see at this camp?
Absolutely. So Camp Say serves young people who stutter ages 8 to 18. It is completely free. One of the things that we've been doing at the Orpheum for a long time now is really working to create more access to our quality programs. And so we don't want cost to be a barrier. If you are a young person who stutters and you want to participate in this camp, we want to make sure that it is accessible to you. So we're really proud of that and really thrilled to be able to offer it free to the families that need it. And in terms of people coming back, yes, we have young people that have been coming since the very first year. It's amazing to watch them grow, both physically from small people to now most of them are taller than me, to also just the way they grow in their journey of expressing themselves, of developing friendships. And I think, many of these young people, like I said, where they are going to school, and we have students coming from all over the tri-state area. We even have students coming from as far as Florida and St. Louis, because they really need this resource and this program. And so a lot of the kids that are returning get so excited to come to camp and see their friends and reconnect with their community, because maybe where they go to school, maybe they're the only person who stutters, or maybe their teacher is not giving them the time they need, right? Because the only difference between a person who stutters and anybody else is that it just takes them a little bit more time to say what they want to say. And so I think for returners coming back, you just see them walk in the door and go, oh, this is a moment where I can take my time and I can express myself and I can be seen. So yes, we absolutely have returners that have been coming since the beginning, which is always fun. And then of course we love meeting new people. So if you've never been before, but you stutter, we definitely want you to come and join us. You'll make so many friends, and I promise you it's a good time.
Okay, so let's talk about how people can sign up, what they need to do, and how many people do you typically have every year?
Sure. It ranges from year to year. I would say we're usually in the range of 20 to 30 young people per session. We do try to find that balance of making sure that anybody that wants to be a part of the program can be a part of it, but also making sure that there's a high camper to staff ratio, right? So that everyone can get the attention that they need and deserve while they're at camp, and really connect with other young people. So we're usually in the 20 to 30 people range, again, ages 8 to 18. And to register, registration is open now. So you can go online to the Orpheum website. That's orpheum-memphis.com. And you can click on the Learn and Engage tab, and it'll direct you right there to Camp Say across the USA Memphis. There's a register button. You just have to answer a couple of questions, fill out some information. And then, of course, someone from our team will follow up with you with all of the details. Registration, like I said, is open now and closes on March 10th, so that we have time to turn around and prepare for the camp, which is actually the following weekend. So if you or a young person we also reach out a lot to teachers, educators, speech language pathologists, right? If you know someone who stutters that can benefit from this program, please send them our way. We'd really love to have them at Camp Say.
All right, Jennifer McGrath, the Vice President of Education Community Engagement for the Orpheum Theater Group. Appreciate all that you guys do, certainly, and this camp sounds absolutely fantastic, and appreciate you letting us know about it and getting the word out there for everybody. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Okay, 2023 has already seen its share of heart disease impacts. Celebrities like Lisa Marie Presley, a mother of 4, Andrea Thompson, the mother of NBA star Tristan Thompson. I am joined now by Michelle Whitlock. She is a 2-time cervical cancer survivor, an author, and someone who works in the healthcare industry. She's adopted several children, and I understand she's got quite the story to tell. How are you, Michelle? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm great.
I just told my producer, you look like Martina McBride. You look far too young to be a 2-time cervical cancer survivor. Tell me about your story.
Yeah, I was diagnosed at the young age of 26 and had a recurrence at 29. So chemo, radiation, major surgeries, and it left me unable to carry or create life inside my own body. So that's really where I started advocating for women's health and for women to know their family history, know what's available to them in terms of HPV vaccination, the PAP test, the HPV test, and really how to protect themselves. What I didn't realize is that this would also turn into heart health advocacy, and that I would find myself at the age of 45 suffering a major heart attack.
I was going to ask because so you have this, you're this 2-time cancer survivor, and then here you are, you work in the health industry, healthcare industry. Were you surprised that you were having this heart attack? And my understanding is that your artery was 95% blocked?
Yeah, it was a 95% block. I remember asking my cardiologist in the cath lab, "What's the widowmaker?" And he said, "You just had the widowmaker. It's the LAD." I was completely shocked. My father had 2 heart attacks in his 40s. But I really associated that to his unhealthy lifestyle. And I've tried really hard to live what I thought was a healthy lifestyle. I worked out regularly, lifted weights. What I didn't do was very much cardio. And the heart's a muscle, and it needs to be exercised as well.
Let's talk for a brief minute, Michelle, about the symptoms of heart attacks or the warning signs, I guess you could say, for this kind of thing for women.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the truth is, if I was listening to my body and my intuition, there were signs before the heart attack. But I'm a busy mom and I work. And so like most women, it's very easy to put ourselves second, push down and excuse away the random. Sometimes I would have like just a fast heartbeat or a stabbing kind of feeling in the center of my chest. It never lasted long. But it did pique my curiosity that I started Googling heart attack symptoms in women, because I did know my dad had a heart attack. So I saw the symptoms and I knew that they could be different for women, and it might not be chest pain, and that it could be things like profusely sweating or getting nauseous, vomiting, pain in your upper back, pain in your arm. So things that maybe wouldn't be associated with a heart attack. So I saw those warning signs. I just didn't act on them.
I got you. Michelle, your cardiologist, Dr. Michael McDonald, is on the line too. And I want to ask him, Dr. McDonald, I want to ask, when do people really need to see a doctor?
That's hard to say, because it has to be individualized. And as far as with the heart disease, you have to consider what are the risk factors, what are the symptoms. And it's not like we have guidelines like in GI, at a certain age you get a colonoscopy. As far as with the heart, of course, if you have classic symptoms, you need to see a doctor as soon as you can, because if you're like Michelle, starting to experience a heart attack, then the longer you wait, the more damage there can be to your heart muscle. As far as the preventive measures and stuff, looking at getting your cholesterol checked, your blood pressure checked, do you have diabetes, all the risk factor modifications, that can be taken up, with your doctor, the sooner the better.
Can you tell me a little bit about how Michelle was treated in the hospital, and is this something that's fairly common that you see as a cardiologist?
Well, it's not uncommon, but with females, the presentation of heart disease can be very deceptive because females don't typically have at times, the classic symptoms that a male has. And it sometimes fools the healthcare provider, and it will sometimes fool the patient as well. The typical heart attack symptoms, crushing heaviness on the chest, radiation of the pain down the left arm. We do see that in women, but we also see more nebulous symptoms, things like a nausea, vomiting, shortness of breath, everything from weird sleep disturbances. It just goes on and on. So you have to be a little more open-minded with the women. Michelle presented with, chest pain more classically, but my notes said the day before when she was biking, she had a fullness or a ball-like sensation in her stomach, and that's very unusual. And you would not say, okay, this is symptoms that precede a heart attack.
Interesting. Okay. And if you had to say something to our thousands of people that are watching right now about ways to prevent heart attacks, maybe like the top 3 ways or just maybe top 3 preventative steps that people could take, what would they be?
Well, it's a healthy lifestyle. One of the biggest risk factors for heart disease is genetics, and we can't change our parents, who they were. But what we can change is, as far as, are you following a healthy lifestyle? Are you getting regular cardio type exercise? Is your diet what it should be? What's your blood pressure running? If you're smoking, quit smoking. And the risk factor modification just goes on and on. And then you have to be aware of being open-minded to your symptoms and not denying that, oh, this is just indigestion, I'll put it off.
Dr. McDonald, thank you. I want to go back over to Michelle. You are certainly a survivor and someone that deserves a lot of accolades. Now that this stuff is behind you, Michelle, what can you tell some of our viewers right now, from your experiences of ways to prevent heart attacks and heart issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things I do want to say is Dr. McDonald's absolutely right that I actually did vomit the night before, and the majority of my pain started in my left shoulder blade. So not typical until I was in the throes of it. So number one is, please listen to your body. If something feels off, it probably is. Take the time to consult with your doctor. The second thing is find time for cardio. That could be walking around your block, extra steps during the day. Exercising is really important. And then eating healthy, make healthy food choices. Switch out some of that red meat for fish. Add more dark leafy vegetables into your diet. Get good fats like olive oil and nuts. And talk to your children. I can't urge you enough to talk to your children. I remember being wheeled out by the ambulance, and I thought I would never see my kids again. I literally had them stop so that I could look every one of them in the face and tell them that Mama loves them. I was home alone with them when it happened. So now we're talking heart health with our kids that are 12, 11, and 9. We've got them set up with a profile on our elliptical so that if they don't go outside to play, their second option is they can get on the elliptical and exercise their heart. And they're asking us, have I had enough healthy food today?
That's fantastic. Michelle Whitlock and Dr. Michael McDonald, really appreciate your time for both of you to enlighten us on ways to prevent those types of things in our lives. Thanks very much for your time, and all the best for a great, healthy, and successful 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. No rain in the forecast today, so you'll still get an opportunity to enjoy this nice weather. Wednesday, Thursday, we have high rain chances though, and even a few showers early Friday. Thankfully, we'll be dry on Saturday, but I'm actually tracking some rain over the weekend, so a first alert to some Sunday rain. I'll get to that shortly. Let's first talk about today's rain chance. Noon today, or noon Wednesday, there's that rain moving in. There we go. We have rain pushing in during the afternoon on Wednesday. It looks like by 5 o'clock we'll start to see a break, at least for a few hours, but then rain pushes in overnight Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Mostly for West Tennessee, Eastern Arkansas, you'll get some heavy rain in the morning, but all of us will have downpours in the afternoon, especially from Memphis into DeSoto County going into Ashland and Corinth, but kind of the same setup on Thursday as Wednesday, where by 5 o'clock we get breaks in the rain. However, rain pushes right back in again late Thursday night into early Friday. This is around midnight here, Thursday into Friday. You get that rain from Memphis into Fayette County into Olive Branch, also in Eastern Arkansas. And notice a few spots in North Mississippi dry at that time, but rain pushes into the entire Mid-South into Friday morning. So rainfall totals will range anywhere between 2 to 3 inches. This is for several days. All day Wednesday, as I mentioned, we'll probably end up with 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Same thing for Thursday into early Friday, 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain, but that would put us at 3 inches in Memphis and about 3 inches in Tunica. This is definitely the higher side for totals, but I always like to show higher, and if it ends up being less, that's better, of course. Rain chances with us for those days, but for today, no rain to worry about. This is that forecast for today. Sunshine, 64 degrees at noon. We're at 68 at 3 o'clock, mid 60s at 5, then out of the upper 50s at 7 o'clock. 68 degrees is the high, which is warm compared to where we typically are. 61 is the average, but a little cooler than yesterday. Yesterday we were around 80 degrees. Still nice though, and low temperature tonight around 48, so it will be a little chilly this evening. Then this weekend, highs are down into the 50s, 57 Saturday. I told you Saturday's dry, and there's that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And just a heads up about Sunday, by the way, we spring forward this weekend. So you'll set those clocks forward an hour before you go to sleep on Saturday night. The time change happens actually at 2 a.m. on Sunday when most of us are asleep. This is also a good time to check your smoke alarm and your carbon dioxide detector and make sure that those batteries are still working so that the fire alarm will work if you did have a fire or a carbon dioxide leak in your home. We will keep you updated on that rain chance on our First Alert weather app, so you can go there for details on more of that timing for Wednesday into Thursday. First Alert 7-day forecast today, we're in the upper 60s, 50s tomorrow, 60s Thursday and Friday. I showed you that we'll have those temperatures dropping down to the 50s over the weekend. And that cold front Sunday probably actually going to move through late Saturday night after 7 o'clock and continue for the first half of the day on Sunday, and then next week looks mostly dry, at least to start the week, but temperatures will only be in the 50s.
Well, International Women's Day is coming up on Wednesday, and so I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to bring in 2 power women that are doing great things, entrepreneurs, and doing some really cool stuff. And they actually met at Middle Tennessee State University. They shared a dorm together, so just next door to Memphis and Nashville, the Nashville area. And so joining me now, they've now actually started up a company called CrowdSurf. And so I want to dive into this and really talk about what they're doing and what advice they would have for women that are wanting to become entrepreneurs. There's so many people out there with great ideas. It's just, how do we do it? And so joining us now, this is Cassie Petrie, I believe. I was watching one of your earlier interviews, so that's why I recognize you. And Jay Driver, good morning, ladies. How are y'all doing?
We're doing good. Good morning to you, too. Thank you for having us.
You know, good morning, Jade. I know it's going to be a little interesting since we're on Zoom and it'll flip back and forth from person to person, but I'm not sure who wants to tackle this one, but just kind of talking about your story. Y'all met over a love for the Backstreet Boys, which I love the Backstreet Boys too. I went to one of their recent concerts in the St. Louis area, so love them. But I guess let's talk about your story, how y'all kind of came together and really built something that is really, really cool. Who wants to take this one?
Jade can go first.
All right.
Yeah, so I met, it was 2005 actually at MTSU. The
music industry program there, and we realized, hey, we have this thing in common. We really love the Backstreet Boys. And so I think we both had this kind of pipe dream in our head that maybe one day in the music industry we could work for them. And so we just really worked together, put our head down, let our work really show for itself. And eventually they called. And now we've been working with them for about 10 years. Running the company CrowdSurf, doing digital marketing, artist management, artist branding, and content creation for 15 years. And it has, I don't know where the years have gone.
It just sounds like such a cool journey. And I mean, Nashville, it's hard. It's a tough industry. The music industry is tough. And I guess as two women kind of taking on this industry by storm and getting to where you are now, what advice would you have maybe for younger people out there that are now, there's so many people that are going towards social media to be able to kind of build a brand and to really grow and to kind of be in charge of their own destiny, their own hours and that sort of thing. In a tough industry like the one that y'all took by storm, what advice would you have? I mean, what was it that you think really helped you along the way?
I would say something that's important, whether you want to be an artist in the music business behind the scenes or really kind of in any sort of creative industries, to figure out how you do something different than everyone else. Coming in and trying to start a business that somebody else already has and you're making like a little copy of it, that doesn't work. I think the reason our business worked is because there wasn't social media marketing companies at the time when we started. There wasn't a job called social media manager or community manager. We were different, but we saw a need for what we were doing. So I think you look within yourself, figure out what you have that's maybe a little bit different than everyone else, but is still exciting to you, and figure out how you offer that service to other people and help other people with that different skill that you have.
I was really looking forward to talking with you. I'm actually working to get my master's in digital media management. So I was like, this is going to be a great interview. I'm excited. And of course, we're digital. This is our digital desk. And so much is going towards that digital side of things. And like you said, it's like finding a niche. And sometimes I think that can be hard. Were there some sort of skills that you kind of have built, whether it's from just past experience early in life, that really helped set y'all up to be able to say, hey, this is going to be something different. It's going to set us apart. And then just having those skills to help make it happen and to be successful. Was there something that you learned growing up or, in your younger years that really helped you along the way?
Jade, I'll let you take it.
I think Cassie and I think we've learned that our talent is marketing. And I think we were kind of born with that drive to see great products and see how people interact with them and purchase them. And I think it was a really interesting time when we started CrowdSurf. Social media was not a household name yet. People were just trying to start, using it. At the time, there was really, there was Facebook, and then, MySpace was around, and then you slowly got Twitter and YouTube and all these things. And really the key advantage that we had was that we were, in our early 20s in college, and we were using these platforms. So just for, for fun and as normal people, we were using these platforms, and we really saw the potential to use them as a marketing tool. So it was an interesting time where this was becoming something that everyday humans were using on an everyday basis. And really, there was no one in the music industry that was an expert at it yet. So the people that were experts at it were the young people really using the technology back then. So we saw this opportunity where, hey, we know this stuff inside and out. We use it for hours a day, talking to our friends, interacting with people. And I think there's a way to use it really as a marketing tool, since you kind of always in marketing have to go where the people are. That's why people buy billboards, because people are on the roads. They buy TV commercials because people are watching TV. Now people are on social media. How do we market something to them? So we really had an opportunity to show that that was a viable marketing source just by kind of being the age we were and being excited about social media.
And let me just say, I loved MySpace. I hate that we don't have it anymore. But I mean, in the music industry, I mean, that was a way that I discovered artists that I had not ever heard of before. And so I really miss that platform. But then you have other platforms now. By the way, I remember when Facebook, you had to have a university account to actually even have a profile on Facebook. So just the evolution in itself. But now there's Instagram and there's TikTok, and they're all playing a part in the growth of the music industry and people that are trying to be discovered and that sort of thing. How should people be using these to maybe help build their brand in that sort of way? There's so many artists here in Memphis, too, that are just getting started. Is there any advice that maybe either of you would like to give? Cassie, do you want to touch on this one?
Yeah, for sure. This is, I think, something that we're dealing with our clients on an ongoing basis, on a daily basis, is how do we tackle TikTok in particular, and obviously Instagram is still really important. And this kind of loops back around to what we were talking about earlier, where it's important to be different. Doing what everyone else is doing on TikTok is probably not going to be as successful as the person that you're mimicking, because they already had success with it. And by the time you're creating your video and have discovered it, it's probably dated and old at that point. So you just have to figure out how you're different and what feels authentic to you. In video, you can't hide that what you're making is not you. So you have to really like what you're making and believe in it, and figure out, kind of take a step back from TikTok and trends and that sort of thing, and really look at it for what it is. TikTok is a platform where you upload videos. That is all TikTok is. And so you think about, what videos am I going to put on TikTok that reflect my artistry or reflect my brand or whatever you're trying to promote on there. But it really has to feel like it's you, and like you're not copying somebody or doing it because you feel like you have to. You have to be like what you're making, and you have to be proud of what you're posting on social media.
And I mean, ever since the pandemic, I feel like so many people are tapping into that influencer type of job where they can do that as their full-time career. International Women's Day is Wednesday. For those female entrepreneurs out there, what advice would you have when it comes to the social media marketing, kind of tapping in and helping to expand their brand and business? Because we've seen some where people have been able to do that here locally.
I can take this one. I just think that in general, if you're a woman in music or any business trying to figure out how to take advantage of social media, and you haven't really had that experience before, go into the situation. You don't start CrossFit and go on lifting 250 pounds. Just make a goal for you to always do better the last week or better the last month than you did before. So if you don't have a TikTok account, get started this month and post 1 or 2 TikToks. That's progress from the previous month. You don't have to go in and do quote unquote best practices and be posting like 5 videos a week. Go in and just do better than you did the week before, but get in the sandbox and play with everyone and play where the people are at. That's how you get started. And your first TikTok may not be great. It may not go. You have to start being kind of not good and practicing to become good. Practice with making this kind of content makes you better at it. So you just have to get in there and participate, and you have to try. And if you keep trying, it'll eventually work for you.
It's interesting because, I mean, even here in the news industry, people are getting their news from TikTok. And so we're also tapping in and trying to figure out where is the right way to kind of reach that audience. Jade, is there any last closing remarks you would want to make? Any last advice that you would want to send out to people that are watching us this morning?
My advice is always ask for what you want and let it be known what you want. I learned that very early on and just started asking. It's kind of the simple theory that if you don't ask, you're not going to get. If you do, you might. So ask for as many things as you want. Make sure you know your worth and let it be known what you are trying to accomplish.
I think that's good advice. I think a lot of times we can get in our own way. I mean, we've done stories where we've talked to doctors about things like imposter syndrome. And do you think sometimes that when you have that almost can help drive you more sometimes if you're, just throwing it out there. Is that something you dealt with personally, maybe struggling with imposter syndrome? So many women do, from what we've heard just by talking to doctors in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is something that I talk to a lot of people about, and I think everyone's always had this feeling. We just never knew what term to call it. So imposter syndrome has become a term that a lot of people have been using the past couple years. And I think imposter syndrome, everything in moderation. But I think if you look at the positive side of it, I think it can be a good thing, because if you're having imposter syndrome about something, it shows that you care about the situation, you care about the job, you care about the role in it, and you want to perform and care about doing a good job. So whenever I'm sort of having that feeling, I kind of try to reposition it in my head and think about, oh, this just means this matters to me. It doesn't mean that I'm not supposed to be here. And that's really helped me a lot in situations where I'm feeling a little self-conscious and underqualified.
We talked to our friend Talisa Franklin at WAVN, The Trend. Talisa, what's going on today? How are you?
I am wonderful. It is a terrific Tuesday. I am so grateful to be in the city of Memphis on a Tuesday. There's no better place that I would rather be in the world than in Memphis. I tell you. So many people have so many negative things to say, but I'm one of these people. I believe in Memphis. I believe in our city. And so I'm grateful. And we got so many great things that's happening in our city that make you want to believe even the more, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'm certainly a glass half full kind of guy as well, Talisa. And boy, one of the things it'll hit you right when you hit the door is the amazing sunshine and the amazing weather we are having right now. It's technically still winter, believe it or not.
It feels so good. I'm telling you, last night I went for my night walk and I was like, oh my God, it just feels amazing. And then it's Women's Month. Hello, women's. It's our month. And so women, it is imperative that we enjoy ourselves, enjoy this beautiful weather, whether you're inside or outside. It's Women's Month. Okay, let's do something for us.
Yes, exactly. And I know, Talisa, you got a lot of stuff happening it is Women's Month, International Women's Month. Tell us what's going on in your world.
Well, this Saturday, one of my dear friends and sisters, Pastor Sheila Floyd, they are having at their church a Women in Business Expo, right? This Saturday, what makes me love this event, if anybody know the Floyds, Ambassador Ricky D. Floyd and Pastor Sheila Floyd, they love people, but this event is hosted by Pastor Sheila Floyd. She is the pastor of that church along with her husband, Women in Business. So women, if you are a woman that you're in business, listen, be a part of this expo. And then listen, if you're not in business, come out to the expo and support so many women that have committed their life to be in business, and let's support them. Women, we support women. And so I am encouraging each and every woman to drop by this Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Pursuit of God Church Transformation Center, 3759 North Watkins in Memphis, and be a part and celebrate these women and spend, I don't care if you have $5 or $500 to impact another woman. Go and spend that and encourage another woman while they're in business. Because I can tell you, from a business owner myself, business sometimes can be challenging, but it's nothing like having people say, I support you. And not only say it, but use their dollars and use their money to support. So I'm encouraging every woman, if you're not a part of the event, listen, come out and just support, and let's be one big happy ladies family. So Women in Business Expo 2023, be there this Saturday. And then what's coming up, many people are threatening, don't know what's going on with their home buyers. Rashida does an amazing job with this 2023 Black Developers Housing Summit, shifting the paradigm through equity and access. Listen, on this following March 9th through the 11th, this weekend, if you're anywhere in the area, go to the Black Housing Summit, get the information. They have put together a Power Pack weekend to help people navigate through this housing market, right? It is a crazy market, but you can navigate through it. So this weekend, we have two powerful things, and you can support two powerful women that is doing an absolutely an amazing job. Rashida is doing the thing, and I'm so proud of her. Rashida Jones and Pastor Ricky D. Floyd, wife Sheila Floyd, is doing 2 women event this weekend. I encourage every woman to support, because I'm going to make sure I get by and support both of those events, because supporting women means something to me.
I know it does,
we got to get
Talisa.
there.
I know it does. Well, listen, always appreciate talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have Action News 5's Midday coming up at the top of the hour with Ariana Poindexter. Make sure you join us bright and early tomorrow morning for another edition of the Digital Desk. We'll see you then.